This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Place to Be Nation, welcome to this brand new podcast venture. I am your host, Logan Crosland, and I would like to invite you to take a ride with me and some friends down the highway to the impact zone. We will be taking a chronological look through Total Nonstop Action, starting with the impact era. You may be asking why we aren't starting from the very beginning in June 2002. Well, there's two reasons for that. One, there's already a podcast for that on the North-South Connection podcast feed. And second, the main event has extensively recapped the early pay-per-view shows. So like I said, we're going to be starting this podcast in the Impact era in June 2004. I keep saying we, so let me introduce my co-host and student in this venture, as he has seen little to no TNA. He is the host of the Ruthlessly Aggressive podcast, as well as a co-host on PTB NXT, Mr. Jambalaya Jake Williams. How are you, Jake?
I'm doing wonderful, and I have not a clue about TNA. I think if I were to, honestly, I don't think I've seen more than 5 minutes of TNA in my entire life.
Okay, so this is going to be real fun.
I need a very good teacher, Logan, okay?
Okay, I'm going to do my best, man. I'm going to do my best. All right, so me and Jake are going to be on each episode. I'm going to kind of teach him the ropes of TNA, but I'm going to call on the help of a couple experts on each episode. I have two experts with me tonight. The first expert for tonight is the purveyor of shit takes and your favorite frequent stroke victim in mine, Shawn Kidd. How are you, Shawn?
I'm good, Logan, and thanks for having me tonight. And unlike Jake, I am a purveyor of TNA since the beginning, so that's either good or bad depending on the shit take I have tonight. So look forward to it.
Oh, yeah, I look forward to many shit takes.
I was hoping you to say, unlike Jake, I am a purveyor of shit takes, unlike Jake, whose takes are all excellent.
No, I'm not saying that.
Yeah, we'll edit that out. I'm just playing. All right. So my second expert for tonight is a podcast virgin, and let me do my best Greg Hamilton impression here and say he is my best friend in the world, Lewis Maynard. How you doing tonight, Lewis?
I'm doing great. I am super excited that y'all are doing this podcast because TNA, from its beginning on Spike TV to around the era where Hogan comes in, was my favorite era of professional wrestling. Had my favorite superstars, favorite matches. So I love this concept already.
Well, it's great to have you on your first podcast, man. All right. Well, my first question I have for everybody, I think Jake kind of answered his way. What are your experiences with TNA up to this point? I guess I'll start with Shawn, since Jake kind of said he's never seen any.
Yeah.
Shawn, yeah.
Shawn?
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I'm in, guys. Sorry about that. Had a stroke moment.
Okay.
So my experience with Impact, I was watching WWF in 2002, which, obviously Jake is handling on his podcast, so it's kind of interesting timing. But when it came out, WWF was the only thing available. WCW had gone out of business, and I heard about the weekly pay-per-view. So I ordered it, and I ordered the first episode, which was just covered on the North-South pod. But and so I just started watching weekly, and it was something new and something different to counter-program what I thought at the time was just a bland WWF product, and they tried to take different risks, and there was some good, there was some bad, there was some ugly, but and I watched it ever since. So that's kind of where I was at when I started watching it.
I got you. Did you get a lot of these early weekly pay-per-views, or did you get them every now and then?
Every single one of them. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
A lot of worthless money spent in the early days for sure. But yeah, it's good. Yeah.
All right, and Lewis is the biggest TNA fan I know, so tell us a little bit about your experiences with it.
Yeah, so for me, I didn't really even come into wrestling until about 2001, 2002, watching WWE. So I missed a whole chunk of WWE's existence there. So I was watching WWE for about 2 or 3 years, and then Impact rolls around. And when I picked up Impact, when it started on Spike TV, I was seeing things that I just didn't see on WWE. I was seeing matches I didn't see on WWE, moves I didn't see on WWE. So it took me and captivated me from the very beginning. And I just rolled with it until a certain era a few years down the road happens, and that's when I kind of fell off of TNA. And I've kind of come back and forth with Impact since then, but this starting era for the next few years was peak wrestling, in my opinion, to me, from where I came in.
I don't know. I agree. In some certain aspects, it was as good as it gets. My experience is really kind of mirror Lewis's. I started watching Impact towards the end of the era of the Fox Sports, when it was on Fox Sports. I had been watching wrestling WWE-wise a long time before that. My brothers watched it growing up, so I mean they just kind of instilled it in me from day one of what I can remember. So, but yeah, I've watched TNA pretty much since the beginning of the Fox Sports era. I have also kind of fallen off here and there, but I try to catch it most weeks when I can. But it's really just not as good as it used to be. So I'm looking forward to diving back into this era that's pretty well regarded. So tonight we are actually not starting with the first episode of Impact. We're going to go with the weekly pay-per-view that happened right before the first episode of Impact as a kind of introduction or a lead-in to the beginning of the weekly TV. So we're going to be discussing weekly pay-per-view 97 from June 2nd, 2004. Shawn, have you ever seen this show before you watched it this week?
Yes, when it originally aired. I have not watched it since, so it was interesting to go back and watch it because I don't remember it at all until I just watched it again. So
I got you. Do you remember liking it back then?
I remember being very confused by the main event, and that didn't change in this show, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But I do remember it being different. That's the whole thing about TNA, is that it was different. And, I told you I watched the weekly pay-per-views. What really got me into it was the X Division, which we'll talk about. But it was just so different from WWF products. So, but yeah, I mean, I definitely saw it, and I probably did enjoy it because it was just different than what we had at the time. So.
Yeah, the King of the Mountain will be an interesting one to talk about. Yeah, the X Division is definitely where it's at for at least most of the run of TNA to this point. Yep. All right, so we're going to open the show with a recap package showing us that 2 weeks prior to this, Ron Killings had defeated AJ Styles to win his second NWA World title with the assist from Jeff Jarrett. They then show a highlight of the previous week where Russo announces the King of the Mountain World title match. And the participants are going to be Jeff Jarrett, Ron Killings, AJ Styles, Raven, and Chris Harris. Jake, have you ever heard of the King of the Mountain concept before you watched the show?
I have heard of it, and I feel like as I was watching, we'll get to it later, but I feel like as I was watching it, I kind of remembered like, oh yeah, I've heard of this, because what it turns out to be is essentially like a reverse ladder match. But one question I had for y'all is like a newbie to this is, in a recap, like Logan mentioned, there was something they showed where it looked like they were trying to grab like a styrofoam X off a clothesline. What the hell was that?
I'll get to that in just a second. But
okay, very good.
But your eyes did not deceive you.
So, okay, yeah. I thought I was hallucinating, but they were in fact taking an X off of what looked to be a clothesline. Just making sure.
Yeah, we'll get more into the ins and outs of the concept of the King of the Mountain match. But the recap continues from the previous week's pay-per-view, chronicling the World X Cup that included Team Canada, Team NWA, Team Japan, and Team AAA. The match that you saw was the Ultimate X match, which I think in the one that they showed on that show, they hung the X above the cables. But usually either the belt or the X is attached to the cable, and they kind of have to shimmy across and get the X. It's called an Ultimate X match. they will be very frequent throughout the coming years.
And actually, some of them are pretty good. Actually, some good matches in those.
Yeah, I'm not doubting the matches, but it's a literal X. Just to be clear.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think this one was for, wasn't it the finals of the World Cup to see who won? I think that's what it was.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, that was the final match of the World X Cup, and I believe Team NWA won. Sabin was their representative, and they won the World X Cup for that pay-per-view. And the World X Cup is going to be a thing that they do throughout the years. I think they do it about once a year for the next 3 or 4 years at least. I don't know if they do it past that point, but Shawn, do you have any memories of the X Cups throughout the years?
Here and there. It's interesting at the time. I mean, I didn't know who most of the wrestlers were at the time because I wasn't really into the international stuff. But as time went on and I look back at it, and obviously I know a lot more about New Japan and AAA and all that now. It's like, man, I wish I'd known more then. Because I didn't really know a whole lot about any of them, and a lot of the X Division guys were new too. So it was just new and different because I didn't know any better. So
yeah, gotcha. Lewis, do you have any memories of the World X Cups throughout the years?
I do. I remember it pretty vividly as being this tournament style thing where I'd see people that I didn't recognize because they were from Japan, from Mexico, and again, like Shawn said, now knowing New Japan and AAA and Professional Wrestling Noah over in Japan, that all those people came over to TNA, and there was this big cross promotional thing that you never see with WWE. They don't cross promote like this did.
Yeah, you could almost give TNA credit for opening for me, opening my eyes to other aspects of wrestling besides WWF. So I got to give them total credit for that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. The international flavor on TNA really was always an awesome part of it. They brought guys in from everywhere, and they still do that today, honestly. Yep. I actually wrote down the team members for each team from the previous week, so I'm going to go through them real quick. Team NWA was Jerry Lynn, Chris Sabin, Christopher Daniels, and Elix Skipper. AAA was Hector Garza, Abismo Negro, Mr. Aguila, and Heavy Metal. Team Japan was Nasawa, and I'm going to butcher these, so I'm going to make Scott Criscolo proud. Mitsu Harai, Taichi Ishikara, and Harai Nobukazu. I think I did my best on that one. All right,
well
and then thank you. And then Team Canada was Bobby Roode, Eric Young, Petey Williams, and Johnny Devine. What did everyone think of this opening package to lead us into the show? I'll start with Jake.
My first thing was of everything coming in at first, it was almost a bit overwhelming because it's something that will continue throughout this show, which I feel, I guess, is part of the DNA of, I didn't realize this would rhyme, DNA of TNA. is that, it's like that's energy.
Matt Morgan. You'll see him in a couple years.
It's just that everything seemed incredibly high energy. It was just breakneck from the start as they introduced it. And honestly, I don't remember a lot about when they introduced these two teams because it was in the first few minutes of the show, and all I could think about was man, this is they're clearly from the start trying to establish this tone of I don't know how to say it. Just high energy.
Just say they're on cocaine. It's like they're on cocaine.
Exactly. Exactly. Through this entire show, it just seems like I feel like someone was in the back and look, we got to come in here balls to the wall, full blown, explosive. And they do it well for their, to their credit.
I gotcha. Lewis, what did you think of this opening package?
I mean, I think it was a pretty good introduction to basically what all you're going to see here. You're going to see high-flying stuff. You're going to see Jeff Jarrett swinging a guitar. You're going to see names that you don't recognize, names that you recognize. And it was kind of throwing everything at you at once, and then over the course of the next couple hours, you're going to think back to that package and be like, okay, this is this. I'm seeing what's happening here. I'm seeing what TNA's trying to market itself as.
Gotcha. All right, Shawn, what'd you think of it?
This is one of the things I really liked about weekly TNA is when they would do the recap of the prior week, because in case you missed it, here's everything that's gone down. Here are the players. Here's what you need to know. And it's an ongoing theme throughout the show through commentary, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But I think these opening packages are really good. And to Jake's point, if you're watching it for the first time, it's really overwhelming. But if you watch it from the start, you kind of get the mojo of what they're trying to do. So that's kind of my take on it.
I gotcha. Yeah, I really like the opening package. It got you up to date on kind of what was going on the previous couple of weeks. So I think it was a good way to kind of introduce you to it. We officially opened the show with Team Canada arriving in their car earlier in the day with Coach Scott D'Amore hyping them up and really getting them ready for tonight's contest. And he wanted them to just absolutely kill Jerry Lynn. Lewis and Shawn, I'll start with Lewis. What were your memories of Team Canada?
I mean, this is one of the things with TNA is if they did anything right, it was forming a stable. TNA, throughout its entire run, has some amazing stables, and Team Canada was kind of one of the first ones, if not the first stable, that happened. And another thing TNA does well is managers, and Scott D'Amore is just this psychopath hockey coach hype man that really pieces it all together. P.D. Williams is technically the leader, but as it grows, you kind of see the shift towards Bobby Roode, and it shows that Bobby Roode is definitely the main focus of the stable. But Team Canada was a good first stable for TNA, and it leads into some great things in the future.
All right, Shawn, what do you think of Team Canada?
I think Lewis said it perfectly. I think one of the things that TNA did really, really well was build new stars and build stables and managers, just like Lewis said. But they did a really good job with that, and you'll see throughout the show again how they mixed some of those new players and stables in with some of their more veteran talent. So I thought Team Canada was great, and the more you watch them over time, the better it gets. So I agree with Lewis.
I got you. Jake, what were your initial thoughts on Coach Scott D'Amore?
I really like Team Canada right from the start. Right as they were introduced, even before the match starts, like I said, Scott D'Amore seemed like I just loved the idea that they had a manager immediately in 2004. I mean, I wanted to see how it worked out, but I loved that they had a manager. And just overall, I thought it was very well put together. Like, say that directly relating to the match, but the production overall, because I was kind of interested to see, like, as somebody new to this, what the production of TNA would be like in this era. And I thought it was pretty solid. I mean, not WWE level, but I thought it was still pretty good. Like, the video package was solid, and immediately I liked that they established that Team Canada were the heels and that sort of thing. I loved them coming out with the Canadian flag on the hockey stick, which is great. But yeah, I thought it was pretty good to come out. I agree with what was said before. It immediately struck me for sure.
I got you. All right. Well, from here, Don West and Mike Tenay welcome us into the Asylum. We will get into the Impact Zone next week, but we're going to start on the Asylum. There's quite the rogues gallery of people here. Quite a few interesting characters seen throughout the crowd, and there's actually a guy with a Mississippi State hat on in the front row, so I popped for that big. All right, so first out comes Team Canada members Bobby Roode and P.D. Williams, along with Coach Scott D'Amore. They're going to go have a tag team match with Heavy Metal from Team AAA and NWA Captain Jerry Lynn. Jake, are you familiar with Jerry Lynn?
I am familiar with Jerry Lynn for sure from WCW, ECW, all of that. So I was familiar with Jerry Lynn. He was a familiar face here.
I got you. Well, he was kind of the early stalwart of the X Division. Him and AJ Styles really clashed at the beginning, and they had some great matches in the first few shows that I'm sure Aaron, JT, and Jen will get to in the coming weeks. Heavy Metal is from the AAA team. He is part of the Casas family. Negro Casas is his brother, actually. I looked that up earlier. So that's an interesting family connection. But this is the opening contest between Team Canada and Lynn and Heavy Metal. The crowd loves Jerry Lynn as a big Jerry Lynn chant starts the match. It was a very fast-paced opener, constant movement, which was a hallmark of the X Division. There was also constant tagging by the heels, which is really awesome to see in a tag team match. Just kind of really focusing on one opponent and keeping them in the corner, constantly tagging in and out so you don't get tired. Towards the end of the match, the ref horribly oversells a shot he takes and allows D'Amore to jump into the ring and attempt to hit Jerry Lynn with the hockey stick, but gets thwarted for a second and almost gets pile driven by Jerry Lynn. But Eric Young makes the save and hits Jerry Lynn with the hockey stick, which is good enough to score the victory for Team Canada. What were each of your thoughts on the match? Let's start with Lewis.
I thought it was a pretty solid opening match. There were some miscues between Heavy Metal and Bobby Rhodes. Bobby Rhodes' greenness kind of shows, his newness kind of shows in this match a little. But then there were other times where Bobby Roode was shoving Petey Williams back in the ring and making the tag for himself. And they established that Petey Williams is the leader of the group, but over the course of the match, you would think it's Bobby Roode. But I thought it was a pretty solid match. I loved Eric Young coming in with the hockey stick because you didn't see him at the beginning in the parking lot, so you might have forgotten he was there. And he comes in with the hockey stick and wins the match for Team Canada. So pretty solid opening match for me.
Gotcha. What did you think of your first match, Jake?
Yeah, I really liked this match. I thought, like you said earlier, Logan, they worked a really good pace. There was a ton of tagging. I thought they worked a breakneck pace. I thought the crowd was awesome, which immediately struck me in this show, is that in the opening match, the crowd was pretty nuclear, I would say, for this match. I thought they worked in a lot of cool spots. I would have liked maybe if they built a little more heat on what was going on, because I felt like for the most part it was kind of a lot of spots. But there was a point where, I think the main heat segment was on Heavy Metal, which is a weird name to say. It's like a person's name, but they really built the heat on Heavy Metal. But yeah, I really liked it. I thought I also liked that despite it being kind of a fast pace sort of match, that in the end it still kind of ended with the heels coming in to win by cheating, which was kind of cool because I guess you kind of get your cake and eat it too, because it's kind of old school in a way, because the heels come in and win by cheating, but at the same time, you kind of got a cool fast-paced match before that, which I thought was a good way of kind of splitting the difference. But I really like this match. I went 3.5 if we're doing star ratings. But yeah, I thought it was a great opener.
Yeah, Lewis, what would be your star rating on that first match?
I'd probably give it 3 out of 5. It's a solid opener. Nothing too amazing.
I got you. All right, Shawn, what were your thoughts on the match?
A little bit of everything that Jake and Lewis said. So, and Lynn, I know it's funny you guys knew Lynn from ECW and all that, but I knew Lynn from 1990 GWF, Global Wrestling Federation. When he was showing my age here, as I always, back when it was on ESPN, and he was feuding with the 1-2-3 Kid, the Lightning Kid at the time. So, and he was always in the After mag. So those were things that I grew up with, and that's how I knew who he was. So he was that staple of the X Division. I thought Roode and Williams looked a little bit like the Backstreet Boys with their little pretty boy haircuts.
I think everybody on this show looks like the Backstreet Boys, honestly.
There's a lot of the Backstreet Boys in this show, but they were really good. They're athletic. I think Lewis brought up the greenness a little bit. There was one sequence in there somewhere where Team Canada, it got a little bit sloppy, where they had to reposition themselves for a pin for Roode to hit. I think it was Lynn. And I didn't actually think Heavy Metal was really that big of a factor or that impressive, to be honest with you. I just think it was a solid match. And I think it was a little bit of the green in there. You had a little bit of Jerry Lynn, but it was solid. I actually went 2.25 stars on this match.
Wow.
Yeah, I went 2.5 on it.
Wow.
I also called out that Heavy Metal was wearing his best Sparky Plug pants, so he got a little Bob Holly in him on that one.
I think that was the most impressive. I think that was the most impressive part of him in this match for me. So.
I got you.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. All right. Well, Chris Sabin and Elix Skipper come out after the match to save Jerry Lynn and Heavy Metal from a post-match attack. So then we go back to Scott Hudson for the first time of many. Scott Hudson, the guy who thinks Roman Reigns fake cancer, according to Grooney.
Thank you for speaking truth to power, Logan.
He is tasked with explaining the rules to the King of the Mountain match. The main goal is to hang the belt on the hook above the ring. But first, you must score a pinfall or submission to become eligible. Those who take the fall have to spend 2 minutes in the penalty box. You with me, Jake?
Somewhat. It took me a little while to... I cannot honestly say that after the Scott Hudson explanation that I understood what the hell is going to be going on in the main event. I would get there eventually, but I cannot say I was there yet.
I gotcha.
That's fair.
Sean. All right, Sean. What did you think of the King of the Mountain concept as a whole?
I think it was different. It reeked of Russo, but it also was something very, very different that we hadn't seen. So I was kind of holding my judgment till the end. I didn't really understand the explanation. I think Scott Hudson comes back later and tries to do the same thing, and I still didn't get it until I actually watched the match. But I was always up for something new, and again, that's what I loved about TNA is they were always trying something new, even if they couldn't explain it. At least you could watch it and try to figure it out later in the show. So,
okay, I got you, Lewis. What did you think of the concept?
I mean, I love it. I love TNA's matches. This we'll see, over the course of the next few years. Lethal Lockdown, Monsters Ball, the Asylum, Feast or Fired. It's just I love TNA's weird thrown together matches that don't seem to make sense on paper, but then they're kind of fun to watch. It wasn't a great explanation in the interview, but it was a solid concept that they're throwing out there for us.
I gotcha. All right, well, then Hudson welcomes in Chris Harris, one half of America's Most Wanted, along with James Storm. Harris says his strategy is to come in guns a-blazing and score the first pinfall to become eligible, but avoid pinfalls from others, which really doesn't really work out for him that well in the match. He says AMW is going to have a historic night. He says James Storm and Dusty Rhodes are going to win the tag titles, and he's going to achieve his destiny by winning the world championship. What did y'all think of this interview? I'll start with Jake.
Yeah, I thought it was a solid promo. I can't say I remember a lot of details from it because I think at the time I was still trying to take in the King of the Mountain and trying to process it in my brain because when he said penalty box, I was just trying to imagine what the penalty box was going to look like. But, I mean, I thought it was a solid promo, nothing to write home about, but it was fine. Again, I was just, trying to figure out, okay, what the hell is a King of the Mountain match going to look like?
Gotcha. Lewis, what did you think of the interview?
I thought it was a decent interview. It was a lot of yelling from Chris Harris, but it lets you know, hey, this is one of the 5 guys.
Yep.
Gotcha, guy. Sean, what did you think?
Again, like they all said, solid promo, and you could see that TNA thought he was the Shawn Michaels of AMW, which long term we'll see how that works out for him. Yeah, we'll see how that works out for him. But solid promo, give or take. It was okay.
Gotcha. All right. Well, next out comes the alpha male Monty Brown in his grandma's underwear. Followed, and he's going up against Great Value Dwayne Johnson, Sonny Siaki.
I love you for that. I love you for that. I actually had that comment written down in my notes.
I gotcha. Sonny Siaki was somebody who started with the company from the very beginning. He was on the first pay-per-view, on the first match. He was part of a group called the Flying Elvises. he would become bigger than he thought he was bigger than the stable, so he eventually split off from them. And they really, 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 really tried to make him the Rock. He even almost does the eyebrow at certain points, but he's almost kind of on his way out here, so we won't see too much more of him.
So history lesson: who is Siaki trained by? This is hilarious.
Impossible question to answer.
Lodi. He was trained by Lodi in WCW at the Power Plant. He was a member of the Power Plant at one point in his career, and his first TV match was against Kiwi, if you guys remember that guy. So, and then so he's been around a little while. Yeah, Kiwi, if you remember him. Yeah, I just took some randomly dumb notes on some of these guys just to have it.
I gotcha. Well, this match is pretty much an extended squash to put over how dominant Monty Brown is. Tenay at one point states that Monty Brown played for the Pats and the Bills in the NFL. At one point, he does a very brutal flapjack onto the bleachers to Siaki. I thought Brown looked like an absolute badass and should be pushed to the roof after this match. And I think the Pounce is just one of the best finishers that's ever been done. Well, what did you think of the match, Shawn?
The match was a great shining match for Brown. I love Monty Brown. Like, he is one of the ones in TNA over time, like kind of a homegrown star. And, it's basically a squash match. There's a little bit of a nice fire comeback by Siaki. I think you mentioned the spot where he just murders him, I think, on one of the bleachers out in the crowd, which is really great. But Brown's a star in the making. He's definitely my favorite wrestler in this era of TNA, and you could definitely see the star potential in him, even though he's raiding his grandma's panties. You could definitely see the star power in Monty Brown.
I got you. Jake, what'd you think of the match and the Pounce?
Yeah, I thought the Pounce. So the Pounce is basically like a football tackle type of move, except he kind of does it where like they cross on the ropes. Or I don't know if he does that every time, but.
That's the move. He slings him and he runs to the opposite rope and then just meets him in the middle and plows over him.
Yeah, because I felt like in this match, it kind of reminded me of like JR, because I feel like for both guys, they were trying to push the whole football connection. Like, I think both of these guys were like former either like college football players, and I feel like they vaguely reference them. It's always funny with wrestlers as far as like playing pro football, because they'll be like, well, he's on the practice squad for 3 weeks on the rant, So I don't know if they were pro football players, but they definitely were pushing on commentary that they were both. I think they were both like former football players, but I thought Monty looked okay. Like you said already, it was kind of like a squash. I thought both guys looked a little bit limited and a little bit kind of janky is always my term for this, when they just don't look smooth. But I think they made up for it with energy for sure. I think they made up for what they couldn't do as far as like working with energy, which was fine. And I agree with Logan that it was definitely meant to build up Monty, who I think his like striking style is really interesting. The way he, like his punches and stuff look kind of unique compared to what you normally see. But yeah, I would consider this almost like a filler, not in a bad way, but just kind of a filler match. I went 2 on this one.
What was your star rating, Shawn?
I actually went 2 as well.
Yeah, I believe I went 2 as well. Lewis, what do you think of the match?
I thought it was a pretty good match. They say on commentary that Monty's trying to work his way up to a world title shot. So the only thing that really got weird there for a bit was when Monty brought Siaki out into the crowd to fight. I don't know where the count out was. I don't know why there wasn't a count out happening. But they fight on the outside for a solid minute before getting back in. There's a point where Siaki tries to do a pop-up Samoan drop and almost breaks his back catching Monty Brown, which was odd to watch and painful to watch. But yeah, the Pounce is an amazing finish. That Pounce actually busted open Siaki. I'm not sure if it was a headbutt or a forearm that did it, but yeah, that a football tackle busted open Siaki at the end of that match.
Yeah, I'll say that wasn't one of the best Pounces you'll see, but there are plenty more to come, I promise, that are much better. So after the match, the New York connection of Glenn Gilberti and Johnny Swinger come out, and they beat up Sonny Siaki and dress him in a hula skirt and a coconut bra to mock his Samoan heritage. Pat Kenny, who was previously known as Simon Diamond, who was actually teammates with Johnny Swinger in a tag team called the Diamonds in the Rough, he comes out to make the save for Siaki as Swinger and Pat Kenny had broken up probably like 3 or 4 months before this. I think they lost a string of tag matches and lost the titles, and Swinger got kind of tired of him not pulling his weight. After this, Trinity, who is the valet for the New York connection, comes out and low blows Kenny, only for Sonny Siaki's girlfriend Desire to even the odds and start beating everybody with a belt. What did everybody think of this little after the match segment? Let's start with Jake.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty fun, kind of chaotic segment. They definitely put over. I put Johnny Swinger in Disco Inferno because he's always Disco Inferno to me. But they put over that they were like that. This is only another incident in their string of like, I guess like ethnicity or race-based attacks, because they called. I forgot what you called them, but I put him as Irish Pat because that's what they called him on commentary. Is Irish Pat, who's the one who comes to make the save, but apparently they attacked Irish Pat before, so this is like their thing. Yeah, it was just kind of pretty fun, standard after the match chaotic brawl. I did say that Desire, she kind of had like tennis shoes on, and that she kind of looked like she just came from shopping at Target. So she kind of looked like she had like New Balances on with like the jean skirt and a tank top. So she just came from the grocery store.
All right, Shawn, what did you think of this post-match brawl?
I don't know how to top Jake's analysis of Desire shoes. I can't get close to that. I hated it. I think that's like what Jake talked about earlier, where things are going so fast, and we just saw Monty Brown kick the shit out of this guy, and now here comes Disco Inferno and Swinger, and I hate the Samoan heritage. You know, that's kind of the spiel for it. It's very Russo. It's stupid. And then I know you said great value Rock for Siaki. I said great value Colt Cabana for what's his name? Pat. What's his name? Great value Colt Cabana. Yeah,
Irish Pat.
Yeah, Irish Pat. He looks more like Colt Cabana. So great value Colt Cabana. And then just Desire just shows up, and I think in my notes I put she's not very desirable. So I hated it. I hated the whole post match. Sorry, sorry, Jake.
Okay. Yeah, her full name is actually Every Man's Desire. So obviously not Shawn's Desire.
Legal name?
Not Shawn's Desire, but I always shit take, so that might be my first one of the night.
Yeah, that's her legal name, Jake.
Her legal name is Every Man's Desire in parentheses except Shawn Kidd.
Something like that. All right, Lewis, what do you think of this post-match brawl?
I didn't think much of it. At the end, there were 6 people in the ring, and I couldn't care less about any of them. Disco Inferno, if he's on my TV screen, I don't care. He is, if we're going to stick with the low-budget theme, he's the low-budget Velveteen Dream. He's Velveteen Dream, if Velveteen Dream had no charisma.
Impoverished Velveteen Dream.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. But yeah, 6 people in the ring. After this, I couldn't name one of them. I don't really care about them.
Valid point. That's right. So after this, we go back to Scott Hudson. He's with AJ Styles this time. AJ thinks he's the favorite due to his history in ladder matches and the fact that he's been in the X division, where there are no limits and anything can happen in any type of match. Raven interrupts him and calls Styles white trash. I like that. And then they brawl afterwards before getting separated. What did you think of this interview, Shawn?
So I think at the start, Hudson tried to explain the main event again, and nobody cared, so that's when Styles came in. In Styles, again, looks like he's 15, and going back to that Backstreet Boy look like we talked about earlier, right? Yep. He looks very, very young. You look at him now, and you're like, holy shit. But you know what's great about Styles is he's really carried TNA for the most part up to this point. and he was a star. And then, Raven comes out and he looks fat and out of shape, and then they fight. And it's okay. I mean, it's still building to the main event, but it's just kind of there. Not bad, not great. That's how I felt about it.
Gotcha. Lewis, what do you think of this interview?
I thought it was a pretty decent interview. One thing that I kind of noticed rewatching it here was something that TNA had some issues with around this time were who's a face and who's a heel. Because in the pre-package before the show starts, you see Jeff Jarrett bashing AJ with a guitar and costing him the world title. But then AJ comes out for this interview and he's all smug. And if this is my first time watching these superstars, I'm thinking, who am I supposed to be rooting for here? But then Raven comes out and calls him white trash and starts fighting with him, so it makes it a little more clear.
Yeah. Styles is definitely supposed to be a face here. I think at this point he was a little more. What was that? Was that me?
I don't think so.
No, you're good.
Okay. All right. Let me start. All right. I thought this interview was pretty solid, and I like the brawl between Raven and Styles. And I think it really built some good tension for the main event. After this, they show a highlight package of a best-of-3 series between Sanjay Dutt and the Amazing Red, with the winner getting an X Division title shot here tonight. Amazing Red emerges victorious by winning the final 2 matches, setting up him versus X Division champion Frankie Kazarian. After the package, we get our first glimpse at what TNA would do on these weekly pay-per-views. They would call them their 3 bullet points that the commentary team did. And the 3 points for this match were Red had been through 3 brutal matches before this. Kaz had an extended layoff, and they were asking the question of could Red overcome all the pain that he had been in from the previous matches to win this match. What did you think of the package and the bullet points concept, Shawn?
That's another thing I loved about TNA. The commentary sells the matches and the stories, but the bullet points, they give you bullet points of history and things to think about as you go into the match, and I wish we saw more of that today. That was one of my favorite things about TNA, and I thought it was great. And I also liked the Amazing Red. He was another stalwart in the earlier days that was really good at what he did, but I love this stuff. I thought it was great.
Gotcha. And Amazing Red had been in ROH, I believe, and he had some great matches with AJ and other guys that were over there at the time. What did you think of the package and the bullet points, Jake?
Yeah, I really like it. Like Shawn said, especially somebody who's coming through this new, I really appreciated the video package and also the what was it called, like impact points or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what TNA called them. Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that because it helped me get a grasp of at least the basics of it, like who the two wrestlers are, like a brief overview of what their character is and all that kind of stuff. Like that Frankie's the champ, and the like how Amazing Red became the number 1 contender, and kind of putting over the psychology of the match a little bit, like was mentioned before about Amazing Red. It was Amazing Red, right? That had performed before, and he's supposed to be tired and that sort of thing. So I thought it was really good, especially for how, like I mentioned before, and even with the last package. How chaotic everything is, I think for sure. And especially I thought about this as I was watching because I was new and I was trying to strike a balance between like, okay, is this just new for me because I'm just starting to watch it, or how new is it for people who are tuning in? And I thought about it and I was like, well, they're still kind of in the weekly pay-per-view era, right? Correct? Yeah.
They're
so it's
still...
like, and as a new promotion, you're trying to like gain fans. So I'm thinking what you want to do is try and orient people to what you're doing, like try and get everybody up to speed on what's going on in every show, because you never know when you're going to have new viewers in. So I thought it was effective in doing that and kind of just giving you the meat and potatoes of what the feud's about and what's going on with them. So I thought it was good.
Yeah, Tanae and West were always really good about selling you on the next show and getting you to really get invested in what was going to happen next week. Lewis, what did you think of the package and the bullet points concept?
I thought it was good. The package shows a lot of what you can expect with the X Division, with Sanjay Dutt and Amazing Red just doing these off the wall amazing moves to each other. And then the impact bullet points. It's a very professional boxing MMA kind of pre-fight breakdown of what you're supposed to be expecting here. And I love that. I love that they give you a little heads up on what happened previously and what might be happening going forward if this person wins or if this person wins. It's good. It's a good concept.
Gotcha. All right, well, Red comes out first, followed by the champion, Frankie Kazarian. We get our first Impact plug as this match starts, so that's a big one. They're really pushing the fact that Kaz hasn't wrestled since April, so they're really pushing the fact that he's super rested and should, bowl over Red because he has so much more energy and stamina, or should have much more energy and stamina. Kaz starts the match by one-upping Red with some arm drags. I think he does too, and he counts them and gets real boisterous about it. Doesn't take Amazing Red too long to take flight as he does a plancha about a minute and a half into the match. Kaz uses more of a submission style in this match, which, in the X Division, there's a lot of high flying and you're really chaotic running around. So he used kind of a submission style because he knew if he was going to beat Red, he had to kind of slow him down because Red's style is real chaotic and quick. But once Red takes over, the match gets going much faster and gets very much more exciting. Red actually hits a move that's kind of a reverse 619 and apparently calls it the 718. So he kind of stole Rey Mysterio's gimmick on that one. Apparently that's Brooklyn's area code. So, but then Kaz hits the Wave of the Future for the victory, which I thought was a pretty cool move. In a solid X Division match, I gave it 2.5 stars. Shawn, what'd you think of the match?
I also gave it 2.5 stars. A couple things in this I really like. The storytelling and Kaz, and I can't say enough about Don West and Mike Tenay. They're great at storytelling. They're great at selling the match, and I think that's one of the best things about this promotion you'll see over time is that they're just so good at this. But one of the detailed things I really liked was the belt hasn't been defended since April, and they tell you that's because we've been doing the World Cup, and I thought that was a nice little detail versus today's wrestling where you won't see a title defended for months at a time without any rationale, right? So that's just kind of a little detail I thought was really cool. It's interesting you brought up Kaz. I didn't find him too impressive, and that's probably because of what my thought process is around the X Division, like you brought up, being high-flying, and he really wasn't. I do like his finisher, though. The Wave of the Future is a pretty cool move, and I also gave it 2.5 stars. Solid match.
I got you. Lewis, what did you think of this match?
This is going to show my X Division bias here, but I gave it 4 stars.
It won't, Lewis.
And I will.
Bias, and I'm with you.
I will defend my answer here because I thought the ring psychology was amazing. So Kaz comes in, he's rested, he hits an arm drag and a hip toss, and after each one, he's taunting to the crowd and taunting to Amazing Red, doing jumping jacks and just showing that he's rested. And I thought that was a great way to put over that Kaz is the heel here. Amazing Red's always been this super quiet superstar. So at the end of the match, he's starting to get hyped up and cheering back at the crowd, and that crowd interaction is what actually cost him the match because he goes for a springboard move and Kaz knocks him off the rope and then hits his finisher and ends it. And then also in this match, you see that X Division stars have 4 or 5 different finishing moves because Amazing Red hits that reverse 619. He hits a stalled Canadian Destroyer he calls Code Red. He hits this middle rope spinning reverse STO, and then this standing shooting star press, and they all had their own finishing moves names that they were being called out, and just showing you the repertoire that these X Division stars have, and all those moves still couldn't put away Frankie Kazarian because he kept kicking out of all of them. So it was, for me, a really solid match and a great introduction to the X Division.
All right, Jake, what did you think of the match? Your first X Division match.
It was more than solid, Lewis. This was a great match. I agree with you. Don't apologize for it. I went 3 3/4, which is very close to Lewis because, I thought the psychology of this match was great because they kind of had the Amazing Red was kind of like I thought it was funny when I saw he hit the whatever the fuck it was 718 because the whole time I was watching I was like, man, he's really doing like a Rey Mysterio thing, and then he hit the 718. I was like, oh, he's really doing the Rey Mysterio thing. But I thought they really worked it well at the beginning because they really sold the whole idea that I thought Frankie was a really good fit for this because I know it's X Division, which I guess in my mind sort of registered as like cruiserweight, but he's a big guy for this. I don't know if necessarily he would be a big guy in general, but for the X Division, especially compared to Amazing Red, he was definitely a big guy. And I really like the way they worked it in the beginning because the whole psychology was all about how he was bigger and Red, like he was bigger and more powerful, and like Red was kind of overmatched, but that Red was prepared for it. And so the whole early part of the match was all about how he kept sort of outsmarting him, which I thought was awesome. And then he kind of gets smart to it and takes over, and kind of starts working him over. And then finally, Red I don't know if anybody mentioned it yet, but he does this moment where he kind of takes off the headband and then he whips out his fro, which completely threw me for a loop. When he and he kind of almost like hulks up when he takes off the headband, and I was completely thrown off because I was like, man, I was trying to figure out. I was like, okay, Amazing Red, and the name just seemed like a name to me. And then he whips out his big like ginger fro, and I was like, oh, okay, Amazing Red, I get it. And he hulked up, and they got lots of really good near falls for him. And then I really like the finish because he goes for the 718, aka 619, and I really like the way Frankie Kazarian hit the ropes to kind of stop it because he's so close to hitting it, and he kind of throws him off balance by hitting the ropes, and then he hits his finish, which was the Wave of Future. So I really thought that was a really cool finish because you almost think Amazing Red's going to win it the entire time, and at the last minute, the bigger guy kind of like cuts him off and uses some strategy, like as opposed to his power. So I'm more with Lewis. I thought it was really well worked for these two guys. I really love the psychology of it, which maybe is not always what you think of for, I guess, like an X Division or Cruiserweight or whatever the hell you want to call it in TNA match. But I really liked it. It was kind of like high energy, but at the same time had some good psychology. So I went 3 3/4. So I'm in line with Lewis. So I don't think Lewis had any kind of bias going into this because I had never seen this before, and I was super into it.
And with Frankie Kazarian, if you thought that finisher he hit this match was great, just wait till he breaks out the flux capacitor. Whenever he breaks that out in Impact, it's this top rope Spanish fly T-bone suplex, and it's amazing.
Well, and to Lewis's point, I think this is why, for me, Kaz in this particular match isn't what Kaz is going to be, and I think maybe that's why I went 2.5, because the best is yet to come from him. And I think that's why I didn't go more than what it was.
Well, shit, good for him, because this is pretty fucking good.
Yeah,
Logan,
the X Division.
Logan, no harm.
Only gets
no harm, Logan. 2.5 is fine.
Yeah. That's exactly what I went. So, the best is yet to come for the X Division. It'll only get better in the next few years. After this, they cut to the back for an interview with a gut check participant named D-Ray 3000. I'm pretty sure that's a play on Andre 3000 from Outcast. Gut check was a concept where they kind of brought in rookies that you'd never really seen on TV and let them compete to see whether they were worthy of a contract. I mean, they were trained wrestlers and everything, but they would bring people from all over the country and even international, I believe, and kind of let them see what they could do out in the ring, see if they were worthy of a contract. Shawn, do you have any memories of the gut check concept?
I do remember the gut check. Yep. And it had some good moments and it had some bad moments, but it was kind of a cool concept that they did.
I got you. Lewis, do you have any memories of the gut check contest?
Yeah, this is something they do every few years on and off. I enjoyed it. It was kind of a much smaller scale NXT kind of thing, especially gut check, I think, I'm not sure if it was for this one, but eventually it becomes a whole NXT type competition, like original NXT, not NXT the show. But I thought it was a good way to introduce new names and get people the opportunity to win a contract with Impact Wrestling, because it kind of promoted Impact Wrestling as okay, this is where international stars want to be, but if they want to be here, they have to earn their contract on camera in a match. So it was a cool concept. Don't know if D-Ray 3000 is the one I want to see as the first gut check superstar, but hey.
Gotcha. Well, he is facing a mystery opponent in this match, and he goes out to the ring with his hair pig, fixing his hair, Fear the Fro, and all that kind of stuff. And his mystery opponent is Abyss. Jake, are you aware of who Abyss is?
I'm aware of who he is, but I cannot say I've watched him in ring a bunch. So, like, when I heard the name Abyss, I was like, oh, shit, Abyss, I've heard of him. But as far as knowing what he's like in the ring and stuff, I had no fucking clue.
Yeah, I gotcha. Well, to this point, he is with a manager named Goldilocks. Goldilocks was a backstage interviewer to start when the weekly pay-per-view started. I think she was trying to get a country music career going, and she was going to use this kind of a way to propel her into that, kind of like Jeff Jarrett did in WWE. And she had turned heel on somebody we'll talk about after the match, and had become Abyss's manager, and I think Alex Shelley was in the group with them as well. And we'll get to him further down the road. But I said D-Ray looked like he shit his pants when Abyss started to walk out. Towards the beginning of the match, Abyss gets preoccupied with D-Ray's hair and his hair pick and starts playing with it in his hair. And Tenay kind of calls out D-Ray for not going for like a real quick roll-up. So it was kind of dumb on his part. At one point, Abyss hits him with a brutal clothesline and then hits this torture rack driver kind of maneuver, and it was just two brutal moves in a row. After this, Goldilocks walks out with her briefcase, which immediately got Abyss's attention. She tells him to finish the match, so Abyss does just that and hits the Black Hole Slam, which is kind of like the Boss Man Slam with a kind of a twisting variety to it. It's kind of like a little bit like Deep Six that Baron Corbin does. What did y'all think of the match between D-Ray and Abyss? Let's start with Shawn.
Yeah, D-Ray is not impressive. Fear the Fro. I did fear nothing from D-Ray. I felt like this is kind of another Russo kind of rific gem. It's to sell the Goldilocks angle. I was a big fan of Abyss at the start because it's kind of a mix of Mankind and Kane into one character, which I thought was pretty neat in terms of looking at it that way. And Abyss, as you know, will go on down the line to be a big part of TNA and a big part and has some pretty damn good matches. But yeah, it was okay. I gave it 1 star. It was a good squash, but like Lewis said earlier, I don't care if I see D-Ray ever again. So,
same here. Lewis, what did you think of the match?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I feel like it should have been a 20-second squash match, but they let it play out a little bit. Like you were saying, that Abyss is kind of a mix of Mankind and Kane. I see it as more like a mix of Sloth from the Goonies and Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
That's a good analogy, too. We'll go with that.
But yeah, he's an absolute monster. He's way faster than you would think he should be. That like torture rack sit-down backbreaker was just brutal to watch, and the Black Hole Slam's a great finisher. And Abyss is just this staple of the company for years to come, and he's when I think of TNA wrestlers, he's always one of the first ones I think of.
Yeah, he's a great character.
Oh yeah, for sure. And one of the best entrance musics to go with his character. That just like string, absolutely. Violin, horror music kind of going. That was, yeah.
All right, Jake, what did you think of your first look at Abyss?
Yeah, it's hard to say in this one because I think, like what was previously said, this is sort of a squash match for the most part. I mean, extended squash where I kind of thought it was like a squash with some comedy because I feel like, I mean, y'all might know better than me, but first impression was that D-Ray is kind of a comedy character because he looked like he was stoned for the most part. like in his promo and even in the match. So it's kind of like, for the most part, the match was just him trying to run away and Abyss just killing him with some like power moves. I like the spot where he tries to distract him with the comb. I thought that was funny. But yeah, so it's pretty much a squash with the comedy. So I'm going to withhold judgment for D-Ray because I'm not sure what exactly he's supposed to function as yet. As like maybe he's, but now the more that y'all say it, I feel like he's. And then I'm trying to think of this as, like this is. It's interesting with this because it's not TV, but it's not like a blow-off show that you would normally think of pay-per-view. Like, I know it's pay-per-view, but it's not pay-per-view like we've been building to this and this is the blow-off. So it's kind of hard to read as far as like how all these people are being presented. Because it's like, I don't know, maybe D-Ray is not, I mean, he's not maybe supposed to get squashed? I don't really know how to completely read it, but yeah, it was fine. Squash with some comedy. I would 1.5.
Yeah, I went 1.5 as well. Lewis, what'd you think star wise?
Yeah, probably 1.5, 2. It's a if this is your first show, it's a great introduction of Abyss.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. So after the match, the briefcase is shown to be full of money. In previous months, Goldilocks had been using Abyss to win people's contracts. The first contract he had won for was Erick Watts' contract. Erick Watts and Goldilocks had been, on-screen boyfriend, girlfriend for a while, and she turns on him, and she wants to take all of his money, so she got Abyss to win his contract for her. So apparently his contract is worth a lot of money, once they start playing with the money, I think they were going to kind of do a Ted DiBiase shove in the mouth to D-Ray. But Erick Watts comes out and knocks Abyss out of the ring and then retrieves the briefcase before being escorted out by security. What did y'all think of the Erick Watts appearance? Let's go with Shawn.
So first off, I forgot totally about Erick Watts in TNA. I said, oh shit, it's Erick Watts. So from what I remember about Erick Watts, again, it's just kind of an introduction into this role in TNA for me, starting where we're at. But I know he goes on to have, quite a length there. And from what I remember, we'll see over time, what my remembrance of him is like 92, 93 in the Watts era where he's just being shoved down our throats. So I'm curious over time to watch how this progresses. I didn't find this very offensive whatsoever. If it's not for the fact that I said, oh shit, it's Erick Watts, I think I'd be okay, whoever it was. But I have to wait and see because I have strong opinions on Erick Watts based on my WCW viewing, and I kind of got to look at it differently from here. So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
I got you. Jake, what'd you think of the Erick Watts attack?
Yeah, it was extremely jarring for me because I'm currently watching like I'm up to like late 92 at my WCW watch for GWCW, and so Erick Watts just debuted, and it's hilarious because in there he's presented almost like as a sort of like Peyton Manning if you decide to start wrestling sort of gimmick. Where he's like the most all-American, like quarterback, and he's all about like, I just want the opportunity, and then he's in here and he just looks like, I put that he was like a Gen X, like it's like something happened to him over the 90s, and all of a sudden he's like, he's got like the baggy jeans and he's all scruffed up. He looked fucking absurd. I put that he's like a ECW Erick Watts. It's like if Watts from 92 WCW went to ECW, this is what he would look like. So it was extremely jarring to me, almost to the point where I could not even pay attention to what the fuck was going on. But and so was the whole angle like that Goldilocks is like taking all of his money, right? Because she has like the briefcase of cash. Is that the whole deal?
Yeah. They had been dating like on screen or whatever, and I don't know really what was going on with it, but they won his contract, so I guess they get all the money that he was supposed to be paid through his contract. So I mean, it's something to that effect.
Yeah, so it's hard for me to really like make a judgment on this because I was just getting over the idea of Erick Watts on a wrestling pay-per-view in 2004. But yeah, I would say if you're gonna do it, no, Erick Watts is not where the money is.
Yeah, that was definitely a Russo hire.
Yeah.
Lewis, what did you think?
Yeah, I didn't really care for it all that much either. I had no prior knowledge of Erick Watts because I wasn't there for WCW. I wasn't watching at the time. So when he slid into the ring, my first thought was, is that Test? So he slides in. He tries to get the money from Goldilocks, and I don't really understand what was going on there either, if they were dating or whatever. Later, Vince Russo is telling him to go home to his wife. So if he's married, then what was he doing with Goldilocks? I don't know the prior storyline, so I don't know why he's doing anything here. And just as a character, watching him in the ring didn't really do anything for me. He's a big, tall guy, but that's about it.
Yeah, size was about his only attribute that was worth anything.
Yeah.
From there, we go back to Scott Hudson once again. He's talking to Dusty Rhodes and James Storm at this point. They both question the credibility of Kid Cash and Dallas as the tag team champions and as a great team as they've been acting like they are. Dusty then rambles on, and I kind of never understood what he was saying. He just kept talking about random stuff. Did any of y'all catch what he was saying?
He was talking about something about how he has a hard time with computers, and then basically he degraded. And then he degraded Kid Cash for his mom leaving him. So he was just kind of all over the place. So he's just trying to sell the match and basically just hated him and was just trying to come up with insults that didn't really go anywhere. So,
Jake, what did you think he said?
He said he was talking about the Interscholastic League, baby. Which I translate as the internet, which I think he was talking about. I feel like he was weirdly talking about like message boards or some shit, like wrestling message board. But he said nobody on the Interscholastic League has praised Kid Cash and oh god, who's the other guy? Dallas. Now, yeah, he sucked. Kid Cash, and he said the line that I love because he gave it to Dustin. I was like, Kid Cash, mama hate him so much she left him the day he was born, which is not really a joke.
Yeah, that's why I wrote it down. That's a pretty shitty thing to say. Is your mama left you?
Yeah, your mama left you because he's basically like she didn't love you. It's like that's not really a joke. It's just kind of fucked up.
What'd you think of the Dusty rambling there, Lewis?
Oh, I don't even have to understand what Dusty's talking about. I could listen to him talk for an hour. I love it. But yeah, he was more or less saying he went on the internet, and I guess this is 2004, so early search engine times, and he was trying to look up best tag teams of all time. And he was saying, I didn't see Kid Cash and Dallas's name there. But it was a funny way to introduce James Storm if you're not familiar with him, and say, hey, this is the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Everyone knows him. This is James Storm. He's kind of being coached by Dusty here.
Gotcha. Yeah, I couldn't understand at all what Dusty was going at, so I'm glad y'all understood him a little better than I did. After that, we go to, I think Lewis mentioned this already, but we go to Russo and Watts in the parking lot talking about how Goldilocks is threatening to sue the company if the briefcase doesn't get back to her. Russo tells Watts he'll handle it and to just go home to his wife, and from there he just kind of walks away and says, you better handle it. So Russo's got some work to do. From this point, I think we're going to take a break real quick. We will be right back with more TNA and look forward to seeing you on the other side.
American dream. He's just a common man
welcome back to the highway to the Impact Zone. I am here with Jambalaya Jake Williams, Lewis Maynard, and Shawn Kidd, and we are talking about NWA TNA Weekly Pay-Per-View number 97. And we just got past the point where we were talking about Russo and Erick Watts out in the parking lot. We come back and we get taken to a package showing Dusty Rhodes and James Storm previously defeating Kid Cash in Dallas in what was called a bunkhouse brawl. Cash then speaks about this being Dusty's comeback and that he and Dallas are going to end that comeback very quickly. Back in the arena, the commentary team give us the 3 impact bullet points once again for this match. The 3 points in this match were, can the champs walk the walk since they can talk the talk? Dusty and Storm had previously won that bunkhouse brawl, as I said, to gain this opportunity. And the third one was, can the dream make it a nightmare for the champs? Thoughts on the package and the bullet points? Let's go with Shawn.
Again, I love the bullet points. I love the package. The recaps, like I said, are a highlight. And I enjoy TNA Kid Cash. I thought he was really great as a character. And Dallas is a rookie, obviously. But I love the setup, and I just can't say enough about how great a job TNA does with these things. So if I'm a first-time viewer watching this and seeing these recaps and these bullet points, I'm totally enthralled watching this now. So I love it.
I gotcha. Jake, were you aware of Kid Cash before this?
No, he's brand new to me, and so is Dallas. James Storm I'm a little familiar with, or at least I've heard of him before, just like from hearing about TNA. But as far as Kid Cash, I had no clue about him.
I got you. Kid Cash had been like a one-time X Division champion at this point. He was kind of the dick heel of the X Division for about 3 or 4 months at one point. He was the champion. He eventually goes to WB in like 2006, and I think he wins the Cruiserweight Championship. And then him and Jamie Noble team up and are the Pitbulls. And Dallas is current day Lance Archer. He also went by the names of Lance Hoyt, Lance Steele. I think there are a couple other names he went by, but you
Lance Bug, Lance Dragon, Lance Rock. He's just making his way through the Pokemon types, basically.
Overrated. Yeah.
He has more names than years in the business.
Hey, and one more thing about Kid Cash, he was actually in ECW too. So he's been around a long time. So.
But yeah, Jake, what did you think of this package and the bullet points?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, as somebody new to this, all of the pre-match, I remember almost in my notes I was putting, for the first couple of matches, I was kind of like, I need some background on this. Because, again, like I mentioned earlier, it's kind of like I was trying to balance it like, not everybody's new to this when they were watching this. But I'm like, at the same time, it's not like this was some super well-known promotion. I mean, even WWE, as popular as they are, they always... I think that's one of their strengths is that they will always orient you to what they're doing. So like even if you haven't watched in a long time, you can jump back in quickly. So I really, really appreciate the packages, honestly. And I think it really got me in tune with what was going on about the 2 tag teams. They really put Kid Cash over as a heel. That he's just a fucking asshole. And like Dusty Storm is like a classic sort of like up and comer with an old veteran trying to teach him the way, sort of thing. But the up and comer is sort of like the better athlete and the better worker, but the older guy is sort of kind of showing him the way. So I thought it was very solid. I enjoyed it. I was very appreciative as someone new.
I got you. Yeah, they were really good about these packages and these bullet points. They usually kind of stuck to the main matches, I would say, maybe like the title, not necessarily title matches, but matches that kind of had feuds going into them more than maybe just like a week or so. They had kind of been built over weeks at a time, but they would kind of stick to the bullet points on those kind of things. But they would always open the show with a video package telling you what happened the previous week. Lewis, what did you think of the package and the bullet points they've provided?
Yeah, it was a great introduction, I think. It showed Kid Cash as this short little bully with Dallas as his big, strong muscle guy that can back up the talk that Kid Cash sends out there. And yeah, Dusty is the rock solid veteran that everybody knows, and he's met up with James Storm and Chris Harris and is just trying to show them the ropes, and this is just good old Dusty Rhodes trying to go teach a bully a lesson.
I gotcha. Well, the match starts out and the crowd is going absolutely nuts for Dusty Rhodes, as he's probably one of the main people that they know. The match starts out with a lot of early stalling. I don't think they really touch that much for the first about 5 or 6 minutes of the match. It's a lot of Kid Cash running around and Dusty kind of playing mind games with Cash with how dangerous his elbow can be. We got another impact plug in this match. I saw that and wanted to point that out. Cash eventually tags in Dallas only for Storm to tag himself in for Dusty, and then Kid Cash tags right back in, and then we get a little bit more stalling. After that, Kid Cash and James Storm get a little bit of action going. At one point, Cash throws in some chairs, and Dusty and Storm just pick them up and sit in them and chill for a little bit. Cash then really starts working on Dusty's leg to get Dusty kind of down to his size, and he and Dallas kind of work on some submissions on his leg and put him in a rear naked choke for a little bit. And then once Dusty breaks out of that, he gets a tag to Storm, and the action starts to kind of pick up. Storm uses Dusty's boot at one point to knock Cash out, but Dallas pulls the ref out. Otherwise, Storm and Rhodes probably would have won the match. But then the ref gets distracted talking to Dusty, and Dallas goes and gets a lead pipe, and sneaks in and bashes Storm in the back of the head with it, and that leads to the win. Shawn, what did you think of this match?
All right. So this is going to give me a lot of heat, I think. First off, I love the original 87 NWA tag titles. Again, I know none of you were around. Probably in 87, and if you were, you probably wouldn't remember.
Nope.
But the original tag team titles, these are the ones that like Arn and Tully wore back in their day. They're the best titles that they've had, so really great to see those. So yeah, a lot of stalling. Dusty's still having fun, and here's the thing. And this is what I've discovered. So later in the match, it's a pretty weak knee shot that I think it's a Kid Cash that gives Dusty like kind of a weak leg spot, and Dusty sells it like his leg has been broken in half, and that's kind of traditionally what Dusty does over his career. And the chair in the middle, that's probably for Dusty to get a rest because I think the leg spot he likes to lay around, and now the chair he can sit down. I think Dusty is a fantastic entertainer. His charisma is off the chain. There's a reason why he's one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. What I discovered in this match for me is that I've seen the same Dusty match over and over and over again in the last 30 years, and Dusty's not really that great of a wrestler. He's a great entertainer. He's got great charisma, but he's not a great wrestler, and I didn't need to see Dusty in 2004 TNA. I think the rest of them, I think Cash and obviously Storm shine in the match. I think Dallas is still too green. But I think TNA at this point is just milking the Dusty magic. I only gave this 1.5 stars.
I actually gave it 1.5 stars as well. Lewis, what did you think of this match?
This was just an all-around sloppy match. I could not find a bright spot to this match, to be honest. Dusty does not look comfortable in the ring anymore, if he ever looked all that comfortable. But the 10 minutes it took for actual wrestling to start in the match, the running around, didn't enjoy it. Dallas and Dusty both messed up pretty simple spots. Dallas couldn't get over the top rope on a super kick from Storm. Dusty just messed up all the leg attacks and then oversold it. Cash and Storm tried to salvage the match if they could, and I don't think they did. It just wasn't a great match to me.
All right, Jake, what'd you think of this one?
Yeah, I would echo most of what has been said already, but yeah, I think, man, it's like I kind of get what they were going for with Dusty. I saw what they were trying to do. Like, I think he builds decent heat and sympathy because he's because, he is who he is. But at the same time, it's like, man, if he could only like work a little bit, I could see this working a little bit. But he really can't do anything. Like, besides the one spot where he's like building heat, and I think he got like a leg lock hooked on him for a second. Other than that, like, he really can do nothing. And I think it was said earlier, I think Lewis said it, but it's like, it's not like Dusty was this like phenomenal, like pure worker to begin with, even in his prime. And so here, him super limited. It's like I saw what they were going for, but it was just so disjointed because they could never get any momentum because Dusty he really can't do anything. And so it's like they really couldn't get into a flow. I think he should probably be more of a manager. I think that's what they probably should have done with him. And I really think you could, if you're just thinking about it as a business, I think you can draw similar, you can get the same kind of draw if you just put him in there as a manager and then put Storm in there with somebody else and have Dusty be the manager. I think you could do something similar. But I get they wanted the variety, but I don't think this is it. So I went 2 stars.
And that's that's the thing. Like, Dusty's supposed to be the coach showing James Storm the ropes here, and he spent more time in the ring than James did.
Well, and I get what TNA was trying to do. They're trying to give Storm and AMW that Dusty rub, right? That's what you do. And it's like Jake and I talked about this on his podcast a little bit, with where you saw like folks like Austin or Triple H or other people give people rubs, and those are rubs that work. This rub does not work for them because probably Dusty's just not into it.
Yeah, because the rub he's giving them is not in the ring.
Exactly.
It's just showing up at them and cutting the promos with them. It's nothing that he can't do outside of the ring. So put Storm with somebody, even if it's somebody who's not the greatest, put him with somebody who can at least work a little bit. Because, I mean, Dusty can't do anything. It's like you got to sit there and like weigh the cost balance. And I don't think Dusty in the ring, because even when they do start building the heat on him, he doesn't build the sympathy that is worthy of him basically torpedoing the match because he can't work,
So here's a controversial question for all of you. In the grand scheme of things, when you look at wrestlers and what you know of wrestlers, and when you look at your top performers, where does Dusty rank for you in that? Because Dusty's a very revered wrestler. So I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus. I'm not trying to say, oh, my God, I'm trying to put you guys in a bad position. But, like, really, when you watch this and you think back through past Dusty matches, is it any different than what you used to see beyond the charisma?
I mean, I've seen him in, like, the old is it Warzone? Is that the War Games? War Games. The old War Games matches, I've seen those. So I've seen some Dusty. I get what he is. He's this guy that can go out there, get busted open, and you root for him because he's the plumber's son, and he can rise above and knock down these champions and win. And I get it. He is good for his time period, but I don't think 2004 is that time period anymore. And after that match, if you told me, hey, James Storm is eventually going to be one of the top 5 wrestlers in this company, I would be questioning as to how. Because that Dusty rub did not show in this match.
Or let alone Dallas main eventing a match at the pay-per-view at AEW tonight, right?
Yeah.
Spoiler.
Well, nobody was expecting the Kid Cash rub on Dallas.
Yeah.
But yeah, my thing, Shawn, is like, that's what I mean. It's like, it's not even that he was ever he was never Ricky Steamboat. That was never his thing.
Well,
but here, but yeah, you know what I mean? But in this match, he seems like nearly immobile, like he can barely move. I think that's the thing. It's like, I don't think it takes much more than what he gives here, but it's got to be more than this because he can't even hit the ropes, I feel like, in this match,
It was just kind of epiphany for me. Like, I've always been a big Dusty guy, and I've watched all his matches. And then when I was watching this match and I saw that spot with the leg, I was like, oh, my God. And it was kind of epiphany, and it made me question everything I ever thought about Dusty. So that's why I asked.
Yeah, I think it's just I think it's a matter of taste of what you know. I don't want to get into that on the spot, but
no. It's just an interesting thing for me.
Yeah, it's just a matter of taste of what you think goes into a great match is character working and all that. But anyway.
Oh, sorry, Logan. We hijacked things. Sorry, buddy.
No, you're good. Please do that anytime you can. I always felt like Dusty wasn't ever the greatest worker per se. He didn't have the best, work rate or anything like that. He was always very charismatic though, and he was it was one of the best on the mic there ever was. So him talking you into the stadium could, excite you to a point where, not many people could.
Absolutely.
But I think he would kind of be middle of the pack for me, as all-time wrestlers, But I mean, talkers, he's the best, if one of the best, if not the best.
Agreed.
And backstage, he's one of the best. You don't have NXT as what it is without Dusty.
Correct.
That's true. All right, from there, we head back to Scott Hudson. He's with Jeff Jarrett this time. Hudson asked how Jarrett feels about the deck being stacked against him because he had won a title match a couple of weeks before this, or I don't know that he ever got his title shot back when Styles beat him for the title. So he had a pre-positioned title match, but Russo and him are kind of feuding right now. So he put Jarrett in this King of the Mountain match, and Jarrett responds to saying that he's smarter than all of the people in the King of the Mountain match, and unlike the rest of the participants in this match, he doesn't have an ego, which makes Hudson kind of laugh, honestly. After he says that, AJ comes in and they start to brawl. After this interview is out, we go back to the arena and they plug the TNA website saying that there are actually pictures of what the Impact Zone is going to look like when they debut on Impact this Friday. Then they plug the next week's pay-per-view saying there will be a 4-corner gut check match. They don't announce the participants per se, but they tell you that there's going to be a 4 corners gut check match next week. There's going to be an X Division 6-man. It's going to be Team Canada versus Jerry Lynn, Heavy Metal, and Hector Garza from Team AAA. And there's going to be an X Division title match where Kaz is going to face the winner of, I believe, a 6-man match on the first episode of Impact. So that one will be definitely exciting to see when we get to next week's episode. Then they go back to Hudson for the final time. He's with the champion Ron Killings and 3 Live Crew. That was a play on I think there's a rap group called 2 Live Crew, so there were 3 of them, so they were 3 Live Crew. BG James, which was previously Road Dogg, and then Conan are the other 2 members of that group. Hudson asked Truth what he thinks about being forced to face 4 men tonight. He said he feels like he's in the Wizard of Oz because he has to deal with ladders, penalty boxes, and 4 other superstars playing off lions, tigers, and bears, I'm guessing is what he was going for there. James and Conan both basically tell Russo to do what he has to do because they're going to make sure Truth leaves the champion, because a previous stipulation on this match was if they interfered at all, they would both be fired. Thoughts on both of the promos and the announcement for next week's matches? Let's start with Lewis.
From Jeff Jarrett's, you can tell that he's the face of the company. He's the guy building this thing. He's just this over-the-top leader heel guy that is supposed to have the title around his waist, and he's going to get it by any means necessary. And he's always good on the mic to me. Then when we come back with 3 Live Crew, again, we go back to TNA knows how to build a stable. This stable built around the young Ron the Truth Killings, who his mic skills you can tell are the same now as R-Truth. He has a lot of the same mannerisms and talking pattern, but he's surrounded by Conan, this AAA legend, and BG James, who I guess is supposed to be more of a hype man in this role right now, and hyping up I almost called him R-Truth, Ron the Truth Killings. So this is another strong stable, and they can't be out there to help the Truth tonight, but they're going to be with him mentally, I guess. It's a good introduction to Ron Killings' stable and to Ron Killings himself as the champion, I feel like.
I'm actually very surprised I haven't called him R-Truth yet. Let's go to Shawn. What do you think of these promos and the announcements?
Well, I thought the promos and announcements, that's what's missing from today's wrestling, is setting up excitement for, the next pay-per-view. And then they also sold a match for the Impact where the winner will get a title match at the X Division match on the next pay-per-view. I thought it's great. The the 3 Live Crew, I mean, I'm probably the only one that remembers 2 Live Crew, so I get why they were selling it back then. They were a little outdated even then in that reference. But and Killings is talking about the Wizard of Oz and all this other stuff, and I don't really know where he's going with it, but they were probably smoking some good stuff in the back there with Road Dogg and Conan. But yeah, probably some good shit. I hate Conan. I've always hated Conan, and Brian James is just trying to make his way through life while he's still on drugs right now at this point. He has a career in TNA since he got fired from the WWF. So that's where we're at.
I think D-Ray was in that smoke vest as well. I think he was
probably yeah. They're all back there smoking weed in the Tennessee fairgrounds.
He's high on life,
like,
okay?
Yeah. He's like, man, I got my ass kicked by Abyss. I need some of the good stuff. Jake, what did you think of these promos and the announcements for the match? Either next week or on Impact.
I really liked the Jarrett promo because I thought I feel like I'm in the middle on Jarrett coming into this. Like, I don't shit on him. I think he's horrible, but also I don't love him. But I thought this was a really good promo because I thought he was, at least as somebody who didn't know what the hell King of the Mountain match was, he was at least in this promo trying to get over. I feel like he killed 2 birds with 1 stone, which is always a good thing to do in a promo, like kind of putting himself over, but at the same time trying to get us oriented with the match. And like he said the whole thing about like it's a thinking man's game and like egos are going to get in the way that you can't. And I thought that was really good. I thought it was a good way of putting over what the match is about. And it's interesting because I heard earlier, because I feel like a lot of the backstage promos on this show have ended this way with somebody jumping somebody in the back, which I actually like. I thought it was sort of refreshing because I felt like I'll get to this in the end, but like I feel like it fit the tone of the entire product and what they were trying to go for, and they've done it several times before early in the show. But I like that AJ jumped him backstage. I thought it was actually good because I don't know. I just feel like that's the entire tone they're going for, is that everything is like chaotic and people are beating the shit out of each other and like you never know what's going to happen. And maybe it will get old eventually, but at this point, I'm cool with it. I really liked it.
Gotcha. What did you think of the Killings promo, Jake?
Oh yeah, the R-Truth promo. Yeah, it was fine. R-Truth on this show, I didn't. He was just kind of there for me. I don't know. Nothing he did.
It's so hard to see him as the world champion, right?
Yeah, really I feel like he seemed very on this show to me. He seemed very like, I go to indie shows, in my area, and we have a pretty solid indie promotion. And I feel like this is shitting on indie wrestling, and it's not. But it's like, I feel like he felt very, and that was something I was watching this show. It's almost like certain guys I saw kind of fell into that, and some didn't, and they just seemed like, no, these guys they're getting there, and like they're on another level, or at least they're on pace to get there. And R-Truth on this show felt very local indie show to me, like something you would go see in your hometown, and there was like a couple, like 100 or 200 people there. I don't know what it was. I can't even pinpoint it, but he just wasn't there yet for me.
Yeah, he was much better as a heel at the beginning when he was fighting NASCAR drivers and stuff like that. Yeah. But I think in his face role he couldn't really be the crazy R-Truth or Ron Killings that he really could be if you let loose. But after these announcements and promo packages, we go to the package for the main event, which is the King of the Mountain match. The package they show is pretty much the one that they started the night with. They added maybe an R-Truth interview in there, but he didn't really say anything of note in the part that they put in the promo package. They do the bullet points once again on this match. The first one is Killings having 4 challengers, how that's not really fair, and he just won the title, so this really shouldn't be his first defense. He should get one-on-one, but Russo kind of put him in this situation and kind of screwed him. Jarrett adds himself to the title picture. He had a previous title match from, I think when he lost, he had the rematch clause. So he added himself to the title picture. And then the debut, the King of the Mountain match. This is the first one they ever had, and they were really kind of digging into how each superstar would strategize on it. So we're going to move on to the main event, which is, again, the King of the Mountain match. It's Raven, Chris Harris, AJ Styles, Ron Killings, and Jeff Jarrett. I made the note that Jeff Jarrett's really the only one that had music that really stood out. He's one of the only ones I really remembered. Y'all mentioned Abyss's music was pretty cool earlier, but Jarrett's really stood out in my mind.
AJ Styles, man.
Yeah, but I feel like he has a more updated version of his song that comes on later. I feel like it was kind of a low-rent version of his.
So you like Jarrett's entrance?
Yeah, I do.
So what about the video that precedes, like where he's going on, like the video shows all across the country, and you got Redneck Jarrett from Tennessee with this world map on his.
I don't think that was. I don't think that was.
Yeah, that was kind of random.
Yeah, was that his interest video, or like I had in my notes about his in the pre-match package? It was like this absurd shit where he's like on train tracks and stuff, and I was like, "What is happening?"
That was the most ridiculous video ever.
it transcended the point where it's like most of the video package on here, I was like, it seems a little like less than obviously what you see in like WWE or something, but it's like charming. And then like the Jarrett package, I was like, all right, this fucking sucks. Like
that train track is filmed in Nashville, Tennessee, but it takes them to Europe.
Oh god, that was terrible.
I think it was supposed to imply that he was a well-traveled wrestler, and he.
I know what it implied, but I found it very funny.
Yeah, it is very, very, very random. I'll admit. Yeah.
I also have that Harris looked like Gavin Rossdale, or I feel like our buddy Jason Sherman would appreciate that.
I had him as low rent Edge.
Or lower.
That's a good one.
Impoverished Edge.
Yeah.
Impoverished Edge. Or Great Value Edge if we want to go with Logan for Great Value. Yeah.
Both will work.
And then one thing with Jeff Jarrett's music is, to this day, if I hear the beginning of his vocal work in that music after that maniacal laugh, to this day, I can sing his entire entrance music once it starts.
I hate that theme. I can't stand that theme.
Oh, I love that theme. And
AJ gets a better one down the line, too, by the way.
Yeah, AJ
like
does.
Yeah, AJ gets really
but yeah, with AJ, I've always loved that. You are. Like, that's...
Yeah.
Can you please?
I like the I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get a Shawn and Lewis duet soon enough.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Maybe on the first, we got to hold it out. We got to build the heat,
Yeah. Well, that one will be a special anniversary episode.
Yeah, so. we got to get them in the door, but that'll be the draw. But anyway.
Right. All right, so,
sorry. Now that you shit over the entrances, go ahead.
You're good, man. Borash goes into the rules again. Jake, did his description of it help you anymore?
No.
Not at all.
Okay. Well,
it took. And like honestly, from the first moment they said it, I was like, okay, fuck, I gotta figure out how this works. And like I kept listening, and I was like, I feel like I'm being a good student, but like I don't know what the hell. I'm like, okay, and I have some opinions on the rules. I don't have like. Once I saw it in action, it wasn't like terrible, but I do have some opinions on it. I think it's one rule too many, but anyway.
They add a rule in the middle of the match with the falls count anywhere stuff after Jarrett starts pinning people on the outside. Mike today's like, oh yeah, it's falls count anywhere too.
Yeah, well, after he explains the rules, he introduces everybody, ending with Ron Truth Killings, of course, because he's the champion. To begin the match, Jarrett and Styles continue their brawl from earlier and start the match while Killings and Harris match up in the ring, while Raven kind of just chills outside and doesn't do anything. Styles does an amazing leap over the penalty box. I thought that was an amazing spot. Jarrett then tries to...
Man.
Jarrett then tries... I gotcha. Jarrett then tries to pin everybody, but no one will stay down for the count. Harris does a cool clothesline from the top of the penalty box on Raven. For the first fall of the match, Styles hits the Styles Clash on Jarrett. and he becomes the first one eligible to hang the title above the ring. Styles grabs the belt and the ladder, but is immediately thwarted by every other competitor because they all team up on him, and Jarrett is going to the penalty box while all this is going on. AJ then takes a brutal ladder shot to the head from Raven. I think he just pushes it over and it hits AJ right in the head, and I don't know how he wasn't bleeding after that. Harris then immediately spears Raven after he tips the ladder over, and he secures his eligibility, becoming the second person eligible. Jarrett and Raven start plotting in the penalty box that they're going to team up when they both get out. Truth hits a top rope scissors kick on Harris as Harris is trying to bend over and grab the title that he dropped on the way up the ladder. After that, Jarrett and Raven both get out of the penalty box, and they do start to actually team together. And while teaming, Raven and Jarrett get Styles on top of the ladder, and they dump him, and then the ladder falls on top of him. So that was brutal and nasty from the way that I saw it. Eventually, Raven turns on Jarrett, hitting him with his signature drop toe hold into the chair. They really call out that was one of his special moves back when he was in ECW. Roughly halfway through the match at this point, what are your thoughts on this one, Shawn?
Oh, man, there's so much going on in this match. First I want to say, you mentioned the first pinfall was AJ and Double J. And, one of the things I really liked about TNA is how they mix their veterans in with their young talent and up-and-coming talent. And I feel like Double J has almost made AJ. AJ made his career in the X Division, but I feel like Jeff Jarrett got him into the world title picture. And I always liked their dynamic and thought they had a really nice feud. And I'm kind of like, I'm like Jake, where I'm in the middle on Double J. Most people shit on him. I kind of in the middle. I think he's got some good stuff. Like down the line, he has a really good feud with Kurt Angle. I just think there's a lot of good mix with him. I love the, what was the other spot I really liked was the scissor. Was it the scissor kick out onto? Oh, the stroke onto the guardrail. I thought that was pretty cool. If you guys remember that spot. There was a brutal, I brought up the ladder drop to AJ on the penalty box. And I just like the veterans and the new blood just kind of intermixing in this match. I thought this was the best match of the night. Clearly, I loved it. Thought it was great. The only thing I will tell you is the one person I did not like, who did not fit in, is Chris Harris. I think he's too green, and I think they're trying to give him that Shawn Michaels push too soon into his run. And I don't think he really fit here, and he botched a lot of things. And I thought the finish actually looked botched too, but maybe you guys will talk about that. But I enjoyed it. All right,
I got you. Jake, what did you think about halfway through the match?
Ooh, halfway. Oh, man.
I'm sorry. I jumped the gun. I went beyond halfway because there was too much.
No, but, there's a lot of shit going on in this match. It was wild. My first thing, so I have two things I haven't mentioned so far through the show, and I guess I was saving more towards the end, but the commentary we haven't talked about a lot, but I really like TNA. I think TNA is solid, but Don West to me was horrible. I don't know.
I disagree.
I think he was, but here's the thing, because I think he did. It's hard for me to say horrible because he did one thing right, which is he had the energy for sure. He had the energy, but is almost too much energy to the point where I don't think there's a single line in here that I can understand from him. You know what I mean? Because he was it was too much, he was too much. And I could not understand a goddamn thing he said. And it's I like his energy and I get what he's going for because I feel like it fits the tone of the entire promotion. But at the same time, I need better out of the color commentary, especially when the product is so fast paced. I need more from him. And man, I have so many notes in here of just he needs to chill out. And the thing is I feel like what he's saying is not bad, but he needs to slow it down and just I don't know. And then I Googled him and he's apparently on the Home Shopping Network, and that didn't help his case for me. Yeah, you know what I mean? He was apparently formerly on the Home Shopping Network, and that didn't help him. But anyway, he was not good for me because I feel like that is in this type of chaotic match, I think that's when you really, really need a solid color guy. When everything is so chaotic, they need to get over the psychology of the match, even if there's no psychology, which I don't know if there's much in this one, but you need somebody to at least try and sell it to you about what's going on. And like I said, he was just yelling. It was incoherent yelling, but and then Russo in this match is like throughout this entire show, like Russo, he's oh god, from his. He had like a velvet polo on earlier. He's terrible.
Well, yeah.
He's just his sideburns. He looked like me in 10th grade, and oh god, he's terrible.
A very skinny Vince Russo too.
He just oh god, I don't even know. But like everybody said, too much hair gel. But anyway, the match. The first half, I really liked the intros in the match. I thought it really lent some gravity to everything. Like how they really gave everybody like a full intro. I think that's really important, especially as probably like a secondary promotion, because your whole thing is like you got to get everybody on to feel like this has some meaning and that this is important. And so I thought that was good. And I also like that this is a very ambitious match for them to put over this entire new style of match that's not really been done before. It's cool. For better or for worse, probably Russo bullshit. But anyway, in the first half, I just think, and this will continue to my second half, is that AJ Styles is just like the star. Like, I think you guys already talked about the dive over the box. That is just like, man, it just catches your eye so much. And just the athleticism. And I really like the box in general is like a concept in the match, which was awesome. And, yeah, I thought the whole first half, if I had to guess as far as which part had more issues for me, is probably the second half. But I really liked the first half because it was just a lot of high-flying stuff and really AJ as a star. But anyway, let's continue.
The first half is tremendous for sure. But
yes.
Like you said, but it's like you get caught up into it. Like you said, there's just so much. So it's like, what's really the first half and the second half? Because there's so much to look at here.
And as somebody who doesn't understand the rules, I guess I'll get to it now. But my main issue with this is like I think there's one too many rules. I think the pin to be able to go for the title is one too many rules. I love the penalty box. I think the penalty box is a super cool thing, and it has so many so many ways you could work that into the match. But to me, I think the pinning to go for the title is one too many rules.
Actually,
because
Jake,
it's
if I could interject, you know what's interesting? I thought that too, but I thought the pinfall was okay. What I thought was dumb is that they had to hang the belt. Why couldn't you pin the person to qualify to climb the ladder to grab the belt?
I think I have general issues with that because I just think, and this is just like it's like viewing wrestling. I think somebody climbing up for something is just symbolically better, but that might be Lewis might be able to relate as like an English person, but just symbolically like reaching up for something is better. But I'm fine with that because I get that they want to do something unique. You know, you don't want to just. I get that they want to like differentiate themselves, which is fine. But I feel like as I was going through the match, even in this early part, it's like I was trying to keep track of who was getting pinned, so I knew who could go for the title. And it's like I don't want to keep track of too many things. Like I just want to watch what the hell's going on. And I thought that was too much. And I like the idea because I like putting over that pins matter because you pin somebody there in the box. You know, that's cool because that's a unique thing. You know, you're eliminating somebody from contention. There's some psychology that, but I feel like having to follow that and then follow this. And I feel like even in commentary, they couldn't follow it that well, which it gets convoluted. But anyway, I'm going to shut the fuck up now. But
no, you're fine. I agree with most of what you're saying, honestly. Go ahead, Shawn.
No, it's Lewis's turn, not mine.
No, I thought you started to say something. I'm sorry.
No, I was taking a drink of my bourbon.
Lewis.
So,
Lewis.
Okay,
Lewis.
What did you think of the first half of this match?
Yeah, I think it's been a pretty solid first half so far. Talking about ring psychology, Jeff Jarrett has done exactly what he said he was going to do so far, and he wasn't going to let ego get in his way. So he takes the pinfall from AJ, and instead of trying to fight after the pinfall, really, he goes into the penalty box, and then Raven follows him into the penalty box a little later. I don't think we're there yet, so I won't jump too far ahead. But oh no, we were there. Yeah. Raven gets sent into the penalty box, and he's teaming with Raven, saying, "Hey, let's not fight right now. After we get out of this penalty box, we'll be rested. We can work together to work everyone else down." They do that, and then Jarrett's trying to talk Raven to hitting that drop toe hold onto the chair on Ron Killings, and that's when Raven's ego gets in the way, and he starts fighting with Jarrett. So Jarrett's so far in the match been doing exactly what he said he was going to do, and that's good to see, because that means the promo beforehand meant something. AJ's doing these wild spots like the outside senton over the cage. That was great. Raven doesn't look like he cares to be there. When he threw that ladder into AJ's face, that was very unprotective of a fellow wrestler. AJ clearly wasn't ready for the spot. So I don't know what Raven is doing in there, but it's not going well. But yeah, so far for the first half, it's been pretty good. I do like the concept of taking the title up and hanging it at the top of the ladder. Like you were saying with the English background, it's very, if you know your Greek mythology, pushing the boulder up the hill to try to succeed. So I do like the concept.
Thank you, Lewis, fellow English major.
I
do like the concept.
I've been educated. Thank you for that, guys.
I like the concept of taking that title and physically climbing the mountain and hanging it up to basically crown yourself king.
Gotcha. I love that point, Lewis. I like that last little part. All right. From here, Styles hits Killing with an amazing drop kick while Truth is climbing the ladder. Harris comes upon the belt and starts to climb, and Raven stops him with a terribly botched. He tries to throw powder in his eyes, and it just is horribly botched.
Terrible.
Yeah, I mean, he misses it. It doesn't even come
close.
close. Yeah, it didn't even really hit him, honestly. And then Raven hits the Raven effect DDT on Harris to become eligible. So I think everybody now but Jarrett is eligible to go take the title to the top. Truth then takes out Raven, only to be hit from Jarrett or by Jarrett from behind. Jarrett then hits the. I wrote down he hits Shawn's favorite finisher, the stroke, into the guardrail.
There's a reason why I like Jeff Jarrett. He's got a great finish.
He hits this stroke into the guardrail and becomes eligible, like Shawn had previously talked about. So now it's anybody's ball game. They're all eligible to take the title up to the hook. After that, Styles pins Jarrett again, and that makes Russo wouldn't give Jarrett the title is the reason he got rolled up, and then he gets sent him back to the penalty box just as a way to keep Jarrett out of the match. Styles then takes possession of the title, and Raven setting up a table in the corner to hopefully be used later in the match for him. Harris gets led out of the box, and he and Raven tip the ladder over with Styles on top, and Styles goes like rib first straight into the penalty box, and it just looks brutal. I'm sure his ribs were aching for days after that. After that, Harris and Raven both climb the ladder and meet at the top, where they exchange punches until Raven falls through the table that he had actually previously set up. So it actually worked in the opposite favor. Harris is in at the top all alone by himself. But Truth gets let out of the box right as he's about to take the title and hang it up. And then he dumps him through a table in the adjacent corner from where Raven just got dumped. After that, Jarrett gets out of the penalty box and retrieves his guitar from under the ring. I guess he hit it there pre-match or something. And then he smashes Truth at the top of the ladder, leaving him all alone with the belt at the top of the ladder to secure the win. But before he can do so, he has to retrieve the hook, which Truth took down with him as he was falling down. He took the hook with him. So you have to hang the title. You have to hang the title from the hook. So he has to get the hook from the ref, and the ref basically has to hand the hook to him because they don't know what the fuck to do.
It's so bad.
But then Jarrett retrieves the hook from the from the referee and has a little bit of trouble putting it back into the thing from the roof, but eventually gets it on there and hangs the belt, and he has to hang on the hook for dear life because it's probably going to fall out again. Okay, so after all that, what was everybody's thought on the match and Jarrett's victory, becoming a 3-time NWA champion? I'm going to start with Lewis.
Other than the 2 botches in the second half, I mean, Harris was at the top of the ladder for a good few seconds and could have won the match, waiting on Raven to come in for that powder spot. And then Jarrett having to finagle the hook at the end to get the title on. I think it was the finish that should have happened. Jarrett obviously needs to come out of this match with the title going into the first Impact TV show, because he's that solid career guy who everyone probably knows that's going to tune into this first show. So it's good for him to have the belt going into the first Impact TV show.
I agree. I agreed wholeheartedly with that. Jake, what'd you think?
Oh shit. Okay.
I can go to Shawn if you want me to.
No. I already discussed the first half, but even so, I'll try my best to. We talked about the botch. I feel like, I guess my overall opinion on this match is that for a match like this that is just completely batshit insane, and there's so much stuff going on, I feel like if it's not a certain point of like crispness, or I don't want to say choreographed, because I don't know if the matches I've seen like this, similar matches have been choreographed, but just like if it doesn't have a certain like perfection to it, it kind of hits a ceiling to me. And I feel like that's where this match was. Like when I was watching this, all I could think about was the Takeover NOLA match, which is a similar style of match where you have a shitload of guys all trying to go up the ladder sort of thing. And I feel like that match is like the ideal of what you want a match like this to be like. And I felt like this match had too much stalling and like weird spots to ever meet that. And so I still thought it was super fun. I still thought it was really good. I didn't think it was bad or anything like that, but I just felt like, I said this earlier, it was a little janky to me. Like, it was like too many weird spots of guys waiting around where I could tell they were looking for spots, you know? Like, there was a spot where Harris was clearly waiting on R-Truth, and he looked like a fucking idiot. Like, it was just like he was sticking his head between the rungs of the ladder, just waiting for R-Truth to come and like hit him with like, I think it was like a scissors kick or something like that. And it looked goofy, and there's too much stuff like that. One thing I will say is that AJ looked like a star in this match. Like, he was absolutely the highlight of this match. Like, we talked about in the first half when he jumps over the cage was the first like, oh shit moment of the entire match. And then that bump he takes where his leg gets twisted up on the side of the ropes in the penalty box is just insane. Like, when I saw that, I was like, okay, he broke his leg. That is insane. Like, he just takes so many. To me, he kind of carries the match because he is the one who takes all those insane spots and stuff. And in a match that I feel like doesn't have a lot else carrying it. But anyway, I feel like the pin rule is a little bit much. I feel like to make it a little smoother, they should take that away and just have it sort of be in the same manner as a Money in the Bank. But if you pin somebody, you can go in the penalty box. So I think it gets over the psychology of that, but it was just too hard to understand who the hell could get it. And I had to wait for commentary to tell me. It was too much to keep track of, and I felt it distracted me from trying to watch what was actually happening. But all in all, with all this going on, I went 3.5 because to me that is like to me that's kind of like the ceiling of a match like this. If it's not to elevate it to anything higher than it, I feel like it has to be more crisp, but everything has to be worked out a lot more smoothly. But anyway, but I still enjoyed it as a fucking junt main event. But
yeah, I'm always a huge fan of a chaotic kind of ladder crazy fuck fest like this is. I went 3 stars on this one. Lewis, what would you have put as a rating on this one?
I'd probably 2 3/4 to 3. The thing that really took it away from me was Chris Harris and Raven didn't really do anything in the match to stand out. And plus the powder spot was a bad misfire because Harris was just at the top of the ladder standing there for a few seconds, and the hook falling at the end and them having to get it up to Jarrett to hang the belt. That there was a lot of sloppiness in a main event title match.
Yeah, I forgot to say that, but that powder spot, sorry to butt in, but that, like Lewis just said, that powder spot was bad. Oh man. And God.
There was a lot of botches and timing issues in the second half. I mean, I know I already talked about what I thought at the beginning, but I agree. Listen, first, the big thing that I take away from this match is AJ is a star, and Chris Harris, even though they want him to be a superstar singles guy for him, is nowhere near ready for the spot. He's very, very green, and I think you brought up a great point about him and Raven were just kind of shit people in this match. They were irrelevant, didn't really add a whole lot of value. So, in saying that, though, I did enjoy the match overall for what it was. I think Jake said junk shit. But I would say 3.0 as well. I thought it was fun, but the botches and the timing and the greenness of Chris Harris just totally ruined it for me towards the end there. So.
Yeah, I think this match really exposed Harris. I mean, I think y'all have talked about it already, and I've mentioned a few points. But, at one point he was on the ladder, and he drops the title, and he acts like he's reaching down for it, and just isn't even acting like he's really trying to grab it. And that's when Killings scissors kicks him. And then there's the powder spot, and then there's the spot where he gets knocked into the table. He kind of has to just he kind of just waits for Killings and instead of trying to hang the title, which he clearly could have by the time Killings gets there.
And that's a problem too for me. Sorry, Logan, but it's like, okay, Killings is the champ. In all of our commentary that we just said, has any of us mentioned him?
No,
I don't know.
Other than the diving axe kick, no, not really.
Yeah,
or the stroke on the guardrail. That was a great spot. Yeah,
he's almost a non-factor. He's just kind of there, which I don't think is good.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, and go ahead, Shawn.
No, what I was going to say is like it is so obvious, like them with Harris. If you go back to that time period in WWF, they're really pushing Edge. I think he's starting to get into a feud with for the Intercontinental title with actually Orton, I think sooner or later. But it's really apparent to me, and it's really contrasting that they're really trying to push him as that Edge kind of guy who was a great tag team wrestler and to be a great future singles wrestler, and it's just too soon for him, and it just falls flat. So, and then it continues on into his career in WWF because he's in there for a cup of coffee, and then he becomes fat and he's never seen again. But anyway. Spoilers.
You have very good recall, Shawn. I think Edge actually wins the title this month at Vengeance. So I think
it pays to
you're
be
spot on
with
that one.
Even my strengths, I can remember shit. So.
But yeah, I think Harris really, really didn't get anything out of this match. And another point is, James and Conan both said that that no matter what, they were going to make sure Truth wins the title. And, that's basically them saying that they're willing to get fired to make sure their buddy stays world champion, and they're nowhere to be seen. I know they're going to be fired but obviously in the promo beforehand, they didn't give a shit if they got fired or not. So I hate
that. James has been fired. He doesn't care. He's good.
Yeah. Yeah. But all right. So there is one more little thing after this match is over. A random female pops up in the entrance. A random female.
Well, no. Let's be perfectly blunt. All of us are like, who the fuck is she? Let us be very honest about this.
Well, that's me throughout the entire show. So.
I was like, Don West has no fucking clue. And Tanae's like, oh my gosh, we haven't seen her in 2 years.
Yeah. Then, okay, wait a second, Logan. Don West said,
oh, yeah. That's true.
That was a really good Don West impression. That's good. Oh, shit.
Oh, man.
Sorry,
but no, you're fine. But the TNA just acts like we're supposed to know who he is and does not even try to fucking even give us a clue of who she is. Luckily, we're some ornery sons of bitches, and we figured out who it was. It's Gorgeous George, who was Macho Man's valet in late WCW. So that's who it is. I don't know where this leads to, so I'm kind of interested to see where it goes. But
who the hell remembered Gorgeous George at this time frame? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Like this girl
and he
walks out.
like she was,
today.
And he had acted like she was in TNA before this, and I don't think that's true. I don't think she had ever made an appearance.
Today was selling her like she was Stone Cold Steve Austin coming into the Impact.
To be fair, Shawn, the audience there were some older folks in the audience. I feel it was equivalent to a Waffle House on a Saturday morning.
Oh, come on, Jake. Nobody fucking knew who that was.
Not a single person.
If all six of us didn't know who it was, then...
Lewis, did you know who that was?
No, I had no clue who that was.
All right, okay. And let's face it, if an old shit like me didn't know who it was, nobody was going to know who that girl was.
If Shawn doesn't know, give it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think we came up with that name, and we finally confirmed it. But it was just like TNA just acted like, "Oh, we should know who this is. This is," and never says anything. So it's just stupid.
And let's be clear, much research was done by this podcast to get the ultimate truth for everybody to figure out who it was.
Yeah, we work hard for your S's. So like this stuff. Just playing. All right. What were your overall thoughts on the show, and what was your score rating out of 10? I'll start with Shawn on this one.
Well, we missed one big thing at the end there. She doesn't do anything. The pay-per-view ends before she gets to the ring.
Well, it was a good enough moment for it to end and keep us in
suspense
for the following week. Yeah. So for the following week, we can be in suspense to wonder who the fuck she was too.
Right.
They probably never revisit it. That's the problem.
But to Lewis's point, it's a weird dynamic where it's kind of like TV, but it's kind of like pay-per-view. Because on a pay-per-view, it'd be like, don't leave me with a cliffhanger. But for TV, you'd be like, okay, this is fine. But I feel like they're in a weird in-between spot with that, where you kind of want to leave people hanging. I guess, I mean, who the hell's going to buy this to figure out who that is? But
but they had this crazy batshit main event. They could have ended there, and then they end it with that. It's like, it's kind of like dropping a turd, and it's just like,
tune in
Tune in next week to see who this random woman is that none of you know who is, but I'm going to sell it like you do anyway. It's like,
you have a new world champion standing at the top of the ladder, and the last image is some random woman walking down the ramp that we don't get introduced to.
Hopefully,
that was a fucking terrible outfit with that fucking hat too. So
yeah.
Hey, great value Trish Stratus hat.
There you go.
Yes,
I'll take it.
Yep.
Okay, but anyway, sorry, Logan.
No, you're fine.
I feel like as the alcohol has flowed, we've hijacked this a bit. I'm sorry, Logan.
No, we're...
All right,
Shawn. What were your thoughts on the show, and what was your score rating out of 10?
All right, so I thought there was a good mix of new talent and old talent. I thought there were some solid matches. I think the opener was pretty solid. I think the Monty Brown match was pretty solid. The X Division match was solid. The only really two bad matches on this, and one match actually had a point to it in Selling Abyss. And then the tag team title was terrible. The main event was a big cluster. I would actually say it was a solid effort. And I would probably go a 5 out of 10 if I were to go on as a show. I actually enjoyed the show overall, to be honest with you. Take the main event and just look at the main event as something brand new and something that you've never seen before. Take away the botches. Take away the ending with the random Gorgeous George appearance. You know, it's different than what we were seeing at the time from the WWF. I enjoyed it. I gave it 5 of 10.
Gotcha. Jake, what'd you think of your first show?
I went a decent amount higher than Shawn. I thought it was a really fun 2 hours. I think Shawn said about the identity. I think they have a clear identity established, which is kind of this high energy, chaotic sort of product, which kind of has its ups and downs. But another thing I don't think we've talked about too much throughout this, but there was great crowd heat throughout everything they did. Even the stuff
100%.
Even the stuff that we thought was kind of not so great, the crowd was fully invested, like absolutely. And I feel like that adds a lot to a show. And I don't know. I just feel like they have a nice. And maybe I will get used to it, and it will not add much for me. But I thought they had a nice mix of like, it has kind of a vibe of a tone of like a local indie show you go see, but also at the same time sort of a major promotion in a good way, if that makes any sense. But I really liked the parts that were greater. I think the middle of the show had a little bit of a lull, which kind of brought it down a bit, but I really enjoyed it. And like I said, I don't know if this is me just being new to it and the novelty of it sort of hit me, but I went 7 out of 10. So I'm a decent bit higher than Shawn. I can't go higher than 7 out of 10 because I don't think there's anything magnificent or great on this show. But as far as a show, I try not to just think of shows as all the match ratings or something put together, but just like how did I feel as I watched the whole thing. And I thought it was pretty breezy. I thought it was pretty good. I went 7 out of 10.
Gotcha. Lewis, what was your thoughts on the show and a score rating out of 10?
Yeah, I'd go above a 5 too. I'd probably say 6 out of 10 overall.
Mm-hmm.
I think the singles matches were well done. You know, you get a good establishment for Monty Brown and for Abyss, and after their 2 singles wins, you want to see them 2 fight each other. Just these 2 monsters going at it. The X Division title match was an amazing, if this was your first show, amazing introduction to what the X Division is going to be. And it was just off the walls, high flying, and great spots, great near falls. I love that match. The tag team matches were kind of you got some establishment of your stables with like Team NWA and Team Canada and that. But the tag team championship match was just a complete misfire. And then the King of the Mountain match came about, and it's a great concept. I thought it was an overall good way to end the night with a new champion.
Gotcha. Yeah, I went 6 out of 10 as well. It definitely had its high spots. The X Division title match was great, as y'all have all said. I enjoyed the King of the Mountain match, as it was convoluted in some points, but I really, really enjoyed it. And it's a concept that we'll see a lot down the road. It becomes kind of a yearly tradition from this point on. But I really enjoy the concept. Like Lewis said, the 2 tag matches were here and there. The first one with the X Division Team X Cup guys was better, but it lacked some things in there. But the tag title match was definitely a low point. It was good to establish your 2 monster guys that are going to be built from here in Abyss and Monty Brown. But yeah, I think I'll go 6 out of 10 with Lewis on that one. We're going to move to our awards now. Who did you have as your MVP, Jake?
My MVP was AJ, because in the biggest match of the night, I feel like he was the highlight of the match. Everything I remember from the match kind of always goes back to AJ. The huge spot where he dived over the cage, and also that sick. I don't feel like we even talked about it much, but like where he ate shit, where he like bit it between the cage and the ropes. I'm going AJ for sure.
Gotcha. Shawn, what's your MVP?
I also went with AJ. I thought he was the MVP of the match for sure, and he's definitely on his way to superstardom. So good showing.
I got you, Lewis. Who'd you go with?
I went with Amazing Red. If you're coming into Impact, you're seeing him do things that you haven't seen before. The crowd was the most on fire it had been in the night, and even past that for Amazing Red. Like that was the loudest the crowd got, in my opinion. And just he was pulling out all the stops to try to get that X Division title, and he just came up short, and you can just feel for him in that moment.
And to add on to what Lewis was saying, too. He came off as a great babyface. Like you said, Lewis said he lost, but like I was totally invested in him the whole time. And like as somebody watching this, and I know it's going to be like chronological, I want to see where he goes from here. So I agree with you 100%.
Gotcha. Yeah, I agree with that on Amazing Red. He's awesome. I actually went with AJ as well. So I'm right in line with you guys. He really busted his ass in that match and pulled out some really phenomenal spots. It took quite a few hard blows. So he definitely earned the respect in that match. We're going to go to phenomenal, I guess you could say. Who's your least valuable player, Shawn?
Well, I almost went with Chris Harris because he's green and he pissed me off in the main event. But I mean, if you go apples to apples, you have to go with D-Ray. He got squashed. And he's irrelevant, but it's close for me between him and Harris for two different reasons.
Who played his role? I mean, sorry.
Yeah, it's close. Yeah, he did. But yep, I'll go with D-Ray.
I gotcha. Lewis, who'd you go with, least valuable player?
Raven. He didn't seem to want to even be in the match. He almost injured AJ with the ladder. He missed the powder spot by at least 5 seconds. Raven was just terrible.
Oh, God. I feel like, sorry, I keep jumping on your points, Liz, but I feel like Lewis is hitting everything that I forgot to mention. But Raven looked like shit. Oh, God. He looked bloated. Oh, God. But anyway, sorry. Good call, Lewis.
I mean, that's why there's more than two of us. So. Who have I not talked to?
Jake.
Jake, who's your least valuable player? Sorry.
My least valuable player is Dallas. I thought he looked like crap in that tag match. And I feel like a tag match is I feel like that's a match where you can kind of hide people who are weak. And I feel like he still looked like crap. I don't know.
Honestly, you could have made Dusty the LVP, to be honest with you.
But it's hard to say that because it's like you're putting Dusty in there. Like, what are you expecting? It's like, I don't know. I feel like Dusty at least played what they were putting him in there for. Like, he played his part, where I feel like he went in there and he just, for the little bit he had to contribute, it still didn't look great. So I'm not going to give Dusty LVP. I can't do it.
I got you. For my LVP, I went with the Hook in the King of the Mountain.
That's a great one. That's really good.
You're bailing out Jared there.
If I have to go with an extra human being, though, I'm going to go with Chris Harris. He had too many botches in that last match, and I just feel like it really exposed him for how green he. I mean, he's not necessarily green because he's been in TNA for 2 years at this point, but.
All right, Logan, you convinced me. Switch to Harris. You switched me to Harris, too.
In the main event spot. Yeah, as in that main event spot, he just didn't seem like he deserved to be there or, fit in. All right, so let's move on to match of the night. Lewis, what'd you have?
I've hit on this so much already. That X Division Championship match was by far match of the night.
Yeah.
I craved every second of it. I loved it.
Gotcha. Shawn, what was your match of the night?
And I hate to shit on. I just don't get the X Division match love. Maybe I don't get it, but I don't get it at all. But I'm going King of the Mountain. I just don't get the X Division. There's a lot better X Division coming our way. So, and I don't even think it was match of the night. But I digress. Go ahead.
I got you. All right, Jake, what do you think match of the night?
I'm going to shit on Sean Smallman Elias.
Of course you are. Of course
Frankie, I'm going with Lewis, my roll dog, and going Frankie Amazing Reds.
The new 2 Live crew.
That's why there's 4 of us on this show for this.
LJ, we'll see. Sorry.
I got you.
I'm with Lewis. 4 stars, baby. Frankie Amazing Red.
As much as I hate to admit, I'm with Shawn. I went King of the Mountain as well.
I feel like Lewis and Jake smoked some of that wacky weed backstage in the fairgrounds.
You got a problem with that?
No, I'm just saying. Go ahead.
No, I think this is a good because I feel like Shawn. I mean, as much as I'm thinking myself as it, I feel like you and I are the elders on here.
Yeah, I got you by a ways there, my friend.
But I mean, it's a good balance, okay?
Yeah, it is. I love this. This is great.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do love that X Division match. I'm just like Shawn. I think there's better to come. But yeah, let's move on to moment of the night. I went with AJ Styles jumping over the penalty box. I thought that was clearly the best spot that happened throughout the whole entire night. Lewis, what did you have for moment of the night?
it's between that over the top senton. Ron Killings, that diving axe kick was actually pretty impressive to see, and that of all the little that you saw from Killings tonight, that was a true moment of him going all out to try to retain that title, just leaping out there with all disregard for his personal safety to knock Chris Harris off that ladder.
Gotcha. Jake, what was your moment of the night?
My moment, if we're going with, I don't know if we're going with like in ring or out of ring, but in ring, I would definitely go with the AJ dive over the penalty box, and if not, I would go with the AJ Jarrett promo backstage, which there's not a ton of backstage stuff on this show, but yeah, I'll probably go with Lewis. Him jumping over the cage was spectacular.
I gotcha. Yeah, that leap over the penalty box is awesome. Shawn, what'd you think?
I was going to go with Jeff Jarrett's entrance walking down the train track, but ended up in Europe. That was going to be my moment of the night. but I'm also actually going to the AJ spot. Pretty incredible stuff. So I'm with you guys on AJ.
I gotcha. Yeah, that was just an amazing moment. All right, in these last two award categories, we're going to kind of go with the highway to the impact zone kind of theme. Who are two superstars that you would think are on the way up or on the expressway, let's say? Let's go to Shawn.
Monty and AJ.
Gotcha. Jake, what'd you think?
Same. I'm going to echo Shawn's. Monty and AJ. No, wait. Never mind. No. I thought you said Frankie, but...
Frankie? What?
Frankie. He looked good. I thought Frankie looked good. Monty.
Wow.
Oh, God, Monty.
Oh, my God.
Monty and AJ.
Wow.
I mean, no, Frankie.
No, Monty, you had it right. You had it right. Monty
sorry.
and AJ, you're right.
Sorry, Shawn's polluting my brain. Frankie, not too many E's. Frankie and AJ, not Monty. Okay. He was mediocre.
I gotcha. Lewis, what'd you think? Who's on your expressway?
I want to put AJ up there, but I feel like he's already near the top for where he's been so far from the beginning of TNA. So I want to go with Amazing Red. Obviously, I've talked about him all night. He's on my way up. And then, Monty. Monty was clearly set up tonight to show that he's going for a title shot soon. So he's my other on the way up.
We pissed on your Frankie, Jake.
Money. Money.
Well, I mean, Frankie left with the title.
That is it.
I think I'm going to go with Lewis on this one. I'm going to go Red and Monty Brown as well. They both stood out to me. And all right, this on this final category is going to kind of be people going on the way down. Maybe exiting the highway, maybe heading in the exit lane. Lewis, who did you have in the exit lane?
For my exit lane, I have D-Ray 3000. While the gut check concept is amazing, this wasn't somebody who should be that first gut check star. So him representing the beginning of this concept that's going to go throughout TNA's run, he's just not a presence. You know, he's very forgettable, and he's on my way out. The other one is hopefully Bobby Roode's goatee. I don't know what's going on with that thing, but it needs to be on its way out.
That's a good one. Shawn, what'd you think?
So I also had D-Ray, but I also anybody involved with that NYC tag team bullshit, whatever that was. So that would be mine. Those would be mine too.
Gotcha. Jake, who are you sending out?
Okay. If I can choose commentary, I guess since Lewis chose facial hair, I think I can choose commentary. I'm gonna go with Don.
Another shit take.
All right, Don West. Get Don West out. Go show something to my dead grandmother.
Oh my God! I can see Jake and I are gonna have a lot of fun together on this show.
Sure, you're a big Don West mark.
No, I think he sells his. I think he does his purpose. I don't.
He does, but I cannot understand him.
That's what makes
the word. He is incomprehensible throughout. It's okay to be incomprehensible every now and then, but I gotta hear some words, dude. Come on.
All right.
And other than that, I'm gonna go with Dallas. Dallas. I have to go with Lewis's trend. Let's go with Dallas's armpit hair, if we can pick hair. He might not have had any. His pubic hair, yeah.
Or his or his Christian rock band pants he had on.
Exactly. Oh, terrible. It's like, oh god, impoverished Dijakovic.
You go. Oh man, my exit lane, I had D-Ray 3000 and Sonny Siaki. Like y'all said, D-Ray was just he doesn't need to be around. This needs to be his only appearance. I don't think it is. I think he kind of hangs around in the X division as kind of a jobber. And Siaki, I feel like he had potential. I feel like they probably pushed him beyond his limits at the beginning, and it kind of just got into his head. But yeah, he's my other headed to the exit. But I really appreciate you guys coming on with me tonight. This is my first time hosting, so I hope I did all right. But if y'all have anything to plug, plug away. I'll go to Jake first.
Yeah, on the PTBN feed, I am on PTB NXT, and on the North South Connection podcast feed, I am on the Ruthlessly Aggressive podcast, which Shawn Kidd, who is my my fellow guest on this show, just joined me on the most recent episode. So check him out on that. And on Twitter, I am Jambalaya_Jake. And that's it.
I got you. Lewis, I know this is your first podcast, but where can people follow you on Twitter, Instagram, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I don't really have anything to plug. At Lewis Maynard on Twitter, at Lewis_Maynard on Instagram. If I'm going to plug anything, I'll plug TNA Wrestling. You need to go check it out. I think Impact Plus is their app or whatever. Clearly not a sponsor, but go check out TNA with us.
We'll get him as a sponsor eventually. Don't worry. We're going to blow the roof off.
Sean, what do you? TNA, just to be clear.
That's true.
Yeah, go check out TNA Wrestling.
Go check out Frank. Go check out 4-star Frank Kazarian. That's what you gotta go check out.
On this show.
Sean, you got anything to plug?
yeah, too much, unfortunately. So I just did a freak out drive-in with Jenny over on the Jenny position where we did Pet Cemetery. Did a laugh-in theater with Eric Eels and Grooney where we looked ready to rumble, which I think just came out. What do you say, Jake?
I said, hell yeah.
Yeah.
What a clusterfuck that had to be.
It's a good listen. It's entertaining. And then, I mean, Andy and I didn't get a word in edgewise, but other than that, it's a good listen. I just got to do Ruthless Aggression with Jake, like you just talked, Ruthlessly Aggressive. Sorry, Jake. Which is, we had a really good time. I thought that was really good. And then, Logan, I'll let you speak to the other thing that maybe one day will premiere this year. So we'll go from there.
Yeah, somewhere in the next 3 or 4 years.
Yes.
The Chicken Salad will come out. That's a podcast that me, Ben, Sean did. It's where we take kind of pay-per-views that aren't the best. And we kind of make chicken shit out of chicken salad. We try to keep the positive viewpoints on terrible pay-per-view, so we try to kind of put a positive spin on them. But if anybody else doesn't have anything to plug, I'm Logan Crosland. And me and Jake will be on this podcast every time. Lewis and Sean will definitely be back. I think we have Matt Souza and Ben Locke on standby, so they'll be on future episodes. I think we'll be called the Impact 6 for now. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Six-sided ring.
Yeah, the 6 sides of shit takes. Thank you so much.